The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
G'day world, this is the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, and you are listening to Keeping It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will announce the winners of our 2023 year-end awards, preview Battle in the Valley, and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm here, in effect, and for the first time ever since we've done this podcast together, there is something going on in the background, and I promise not to let it affect my performance tonight, but Jeremy, take a look at my phone. Tell me what you see.
I see football.
Yeah, that's called sports. Young boy Joshua Smith, bona fide sports fan. There's an important game going on right now. I got to keep it on in the background just to keep up on what's going on. But, I don't claim to be the, biggest sports fan in the world. I'm not necessarily, going to jump on One Nation Radio and chalk it up about what's going on in the world of football. But I am a lifelong Michigan Wolverines fan. And the way it's looking right now, we're about to win our first national championship since 1997. So
nice. We changed the Social Suplex colors just for you to, represent Michigan.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of suggested what it should look like, and it's weird how it ended up, with those colors.
It's a slightly, we should do blue and gold. Oh, man. Well, before we get started, there was something I forgot we were supposed to talk about last week, but we're going to talk about it here. The people of Japan love us.
Oh, you know what I was going to say? I don't think we ever discussed on the show that Eddie Kingston won the C2.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so that's also happened.
So shout out to Eddie Kingston.
No, yeah. Now, what is this gimmick with Chartable? Because I don't understand it, and I don't get technology.
Yeah, so there's a site called chartable.com. So you have a podcast, you can go on there, sign up, and it will tell you where your podcast is ranking on the various podcast charts. And for Apple Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style has been regularly ranking in the top 10 of the Apple Podcasts in Japan in the wrestling category. And we've also been breaking into the top 100 on the US charts for wrestling. We've peaked at 25 as the highest we've gotten on the US charts. But in Japan, we're constantly in the top 10. As of right now, we're number 5 on the Apple Podcast charts in Japan for wrestling.
Yeah, I didn't understand when you sent that the first time and it was like, Japan. I thought it was like not the region, but the subject. I was like, oh, we're like number 7 for Japanese pro wrestling podcasts. That makes sense, But then you were like, no, for the country. It's like, oh, I didn't realize. So, we've been ranking up there when it comes to Japan, which is pretty cool. And I don't know how. Now, let me ask you: is this a gimmick? Like, how reliable are these numbers? And it's only for Apple Podcasts, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some Spotify numbers in there, but I haven't seen like a full chart. I think you have to pay to get some of the other charts. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what algorithm Chartable is using, how they're pulling in their data, but I like what the data is saying and showing.
Well, we're not ready to unveil all of our plans for the year 2024 just yet, but I have a feeling that we're on our way to exponential growth in 2024. Like a televangelist or a prosperity doctrine preacher might say, 2024, the year of the open door. That's what this is for us. So if you guys listening will give us a seed donation of $24, then
listen, man. Oh man, but seriously, if you want to donate, hit up the red circle, donate. Yep. We appreciate the donations here for the show and the network. So
yeah, and I just want to say for everybody that's listening, we haven't brought it up too much, but this is probably a good time. This year's FOH draft has done phenomenal. So thank you. We don't always see. Actually, that's not true. Rich sees who's doing the donations, but I don't know who's doing the donations. So I can't name anybody, in particular and say thank you for XYZ donation, but it goes a long way. We really appreciate it. And there were a couple larger end of the year donations that came to the One Nation Radio and the Social Suplex feed. And again, those are whenever you donate to Redbubble, maybe just shoot us an email or something. Let us know it was you, because they don't tell us that you've done that. And but we definitely really appreciate it. Whoever you are that's listening, that shot us that was really awesome. And for all of our regular donators, thank you. And for the rest of you listening, you should be in that list too.
Yes, donate. And also a shout out to everybody who voted. Like you're here, we're going to announce the winners of the award. So thank you to everybody who voted. We ended up beating last year's number of voters. Appreciate everybody going out, getting their votes in. And I think the people were very clear on a lot of categories here. We're about to go through and announce all the winners.
Yeah, there are a few that were close, but it was pretty clear cut in most categories. And by and large, I found it hard to argue against most of the results this year.
Yeah, there have been years in the past where we're like, what are the voters doing? Why are they voting for this stuff? But yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with everything that won in the categories here. So
yeah, and you know what? The one category I disagree with, it's the one I always disagree with. We'll get to it. It happens every single year. But
I already know. Oh man.
Now, Jeremy, you sent me all the details and everything, but I gotta tell you, I'm not shutting off this game. So you're just gonna have to tell me what the point totals are and everything, and then I'll follow along. I did study it extensively. I've looked at it many times, so I'm already familiar. But I don't have the Google sheet in front of me to tell you the exact stuff. So you're gonna have to guide me.
All right. Yep. I'll run this through.
Michigan's up 17-3 right now. Like, it's fucking crazy.
All right. So let's start off with the Antonio Inoki Wrestler of the Year award. So a tie for third place, the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada, and the frontman Zack Sabre Jr. come in with 196 points. Then in second place with 233 points, the current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Tetsuya Naito. And then coming in first place, 561 points, the aerial assassin Will Ospreay.
Yeah, it's sort of unfortunate in a certain sense because, I mean, and all credit is due. I voted Will Ospreay first. I took a look at your ballot. I saw you did too, Jeremy. And I'm sure, there's a huge point disparity between number 1 and then 2 and then the tie for number 3. But I feel like that almost does a little bit of disservice to the fantastic years that Okada and Sabre had, as well as Naito. But this was a runaway category. And it's hard to deny the greatness of Zack Sabre Jr. This is the 3rd time in the history of the show that he's won that award. I believe that's the most anybody's ever won Wrestler of the Year in the history of this show. And, each time that he did it, we pretty much were, talking in hyperbolic terms, saying this guy had a career banner year. The amount of great matches he had were only, maybe topped by the other year that he, won this award. And he's done it again. And Will has been just freaking phenomenal, from the Will Ospreay series to the matches that he had with Umino and Suji, and the series with Taichi, and the Okada match, and the list goes on and on. The Naito match and the G1, his entire G1 run in general, his US title run this year. He killed it. Plus, when you factor in the work he was doing in AEW and Impact and across the world, his Rev Pro title run and all that, he's just had an outstanding year. And I feel like this is a case where even though he's not the world champion of this company, he was so in the limelight and so in the forefront of what was going on in the wrestling world. And there were so many other world title holders that were kind of taking a step back, whether that be MJF or Jake Lee or Sonata or Roman Reigns. It feels like he has a very good shot at actually winning the Observer Ric Flair Award, which I can't remember very many guys that ever won that when they weren't a world champion. And it looks like he's probably the, most likely candidate to win that award. But very deservedly won this award here.
Yeah, I think this voting just kind of shows what we've been saying all of last year, that Will should have been the world champion and pushed harder last year. And I know this is just a sample size of fans. Obviously there's thousands of New Japan fans out there, but I think that our audience in this voting here is a good sample size of what the general New Japan audience was thinking. And so many people saw Will Ospreay, like you mentioned. You can't deny all the incredible matches he had, all the feuds, obviously the Kenny Omega 2-match series that everybody loved, and 2 incredible matches. And so, yeah, Will's just done so much. And like you mentioned, it was Will's 3rd time winning the award, 2nd consecutive. So he's the only person in the history of our awards, going back to 2017, who's won it 2 years in a row and then won it 3 times overall. So just
Gato booked this shit.
That's incredible stuff from Will. If it wasn't for the pandemic, he probably would have won in 2020. That was the one year that kind of broke up his consecutive streak there.
Yeah.
So yeah, just incredible stuff from Will Ospreay, and yeah, it's going to be sad to see him go.
Yeah, it is sad, but again, honorable mention to the runners-up. I think Zach and Okada tying. That's pretty much a rarity. We rarely ever have guys end up with the exact same point total. So that was kind of unique there. And then, Naito's an interesting one, because in my opinion, I don't think Naito had as many great matches or even story arcs this year as Zack Sabre Jr. and Okada did. But I feel like his redemption arc through the G1, and then the way he peaked down the final couple days of that tournament, are really what endeared him to a lot of the voting audience and went a long way in getting him to that 2nd place this year.
Yeah, we'll see it in some of the other categories, but I think people gave that G1 win a lot of weight there when they were thinking about their voting. So yeah, not the most spectacular year for Naito, but winning that G1 does mean something, and it means something to the fans, and people were very happy to see him win the G1, kind of leading into the big moment coming at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, I also imagine probably that Probably combined with the Muto stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a look now at the match of the year. So coming in third place with 185 points, Shota Umino versus Will Ospreay from November 4th, 2023. Then in second place with 237 points, Tetsuya Naito versus Will Ospreay from August 12th, 2023. And then the first place winner, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega from January 4th, 2023.
Yeah. Again, a similar sentiment about the voting on this category as I had for the first one. And you know what? You're probably going to see some of that across the board because, like we said earlier, a lot of the voting here was definitive. So, someone getting second or third place, even though they might not had a huge point total, it's usually because whoever was number one was so strongly definitive, it outweighed everything else. But one thing I thought was pretty interesting is, a lot of different publications and fans really felt like the second Omega Ospreay match was near or at the same level, and some people felt beyond the first match on January 4th. And so the fact that those two runner-up matches, Ospreay versus Naito in the G1 semifinal, and then Ospreay versus Umino from what was that from?
From Power Struggle.
I always forget that part of the year, Power Struggle. That kind of shows you that those two matches really are still extremely beloved and highly regarded by the New Japan fan base and those who are voting because they stood out in the memories of fans. But there's no denying that this year, the match of the year was the January 4th Tokyo Dome match between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Just a dream match, something that is probably going to live on for years to come, something that people were shocked and awed by at the time. And it really set up an incredible story and rivalry between these two men. And it was just violent and exciting and out of this world. And it's the match of the year, and deservedly so. I think both of us voted that number one as well.
Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that was my number one pick for this category. Yeah, that match was just absolutely incredible. I did love the second match too, but there was just something special about the aura, the build, just everything about that match on that Wrestle Kingdom stage.
It's because it happened in the Tokyo Dome, bro.
Yeah, it was just incredible. And I think obviously this match of the year, the nominees and how things shook out in the voting, also credits to Will Ospreay being a wrestler of the year. He's in the top 3 matches here. Then he was also nominated for other matches here in the category. The second match with Kenny, the ELP match. So there's a lot of stuff that Suji match that Will was nominated for. So yeah, again, just gives credit to the incredible year that Will had, and that Power Struggle match. I'm glad that it got locked in here because that match with Umino was just absolutely incredible, blow away.
Yeah.
The G1 match with Naito, that was one I had to watch coming back from Europe and watch that and was blown away. And yeah, just incredible stuff.
Come on, Naito-san, you can do it. We can finish. Incredible shit.
Yeah. All right, the show of the year. So coming in third place with 214 points, AEW and NJPW presents Forbidden Door. Then in second place with 234 points, Sakura Genesis. And then first place with 447 points, Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised at the outcome here, but in a certain sense, I am, because personally, and I know I said that there was one category I always disagree with. This isn't that one, but I do disagree slightly. I thought Wrestle Kingdom 17 was a great show. Don't get me wrong. And the top 2 matches at the top of the card were outstanding. But for me personally, I thought Sakura Genesis was the show of the year. And I was a little surprised that even though it did get recognition and love, Wrestle Kingdom 17 really ran away with this thing.
Yeah, and just one correction here. Actually, third place goes to Dominion, which had 226 points.
I've been sitting here thinking it was Forbidden Door because of the way you tallied it.
I did too. I overlooked Dominion's points. Yeah, Dominion had a little bit more points there for Forbidden Door, so it was actually Dominion in third place with 226. So Forbidden Door's out of there. Yeah. All the AEW haters, they got the ballot. They were like, nah.
Well, make no mistake about it. This year's Forbidden Door was like a good show, and yeah, Kenny and Osprey was phenomenal, but it really did kind of underwhelm compared to the year prior show.
Yeah. And I agree with you as well. It's like Sakura Genesis being a really great show, but I think I did vote for Wrestle Kingdom 17 first. I think just that Will and Kenny match just took that show to another level. And you have a debut of Mercedes Moné. You had the TV title being debuted with Narita and Sabre in a big spot there. There's so many great things, and the last Jay White, big New Japan Tokyo Dome main event against Okada. So there's so many great things about that show, and it kind of felt like, oh, we're back. Like, we're back, yeah. There's so much hype. Like, there are people getting up early to watch this show. People are, starting their podcasts again. Like, everybody's coming out of the woodworks to talk about
cheering is back.
Yeah, cheering is back. Yeah, there was just so much special stuff.
There's also that aspect where, like, Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome is always happening, and regardless of how good or bad it is, it's going to have a bit of a head start because so many people tune in for that particular event, as opposed to, say, like a Dominion or a Sakura Genesis and that sort of thing. So it is kind of rare that Wrestle Kingdom loses in general. In order for a show to beat it, Wrestle Kingdom either needs to be really bad, which it never is, or the other show needs to be like God level, like, Dominion in 2017 or, like Forbidden Door last year. So even though I personally thought Sakura Genesis was the better show and the one that sticks more in my memory, I can see why Wrestle Kingdom this past year, like, endeared itself to the fan base.
Yeah. Great stuff. So moving on, we got the Jushin Thunder Liger Jr. of the year. So coming in at third place with 202 points. The best is the Super Junior winner, Master Wato. Coming in second place with 320 points, the current junior champion, El Desperado. And then in first place with 471 points, the now former champion, the ticking time bomb, Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah, well, it was Hiromu's year, started off the year extremely strong by winning the IWGP Junior title at Wrestle Kingdom 17 in the four-way, and then proceeded to defend the title almost every single month for the first half of the year. Got to V6 essentially, and then in the second half of the year, went on a large tour of excursion matches across all the different companies in Japan, beating some of their top stars. He spearheaded the two various All-Star Junior events. He was clearly the MVP of Best of the Super Juniors this past year, and he had fantastic matches with a variety of opponents. I was wondering if, like, the weakness of his second half schedule might potentially affect the voting, but it was still a clear case that even though Wato won Best of the Super Juniors, and even though Desperado had acclaim and some great matches, like, it was kind of insurmountable that one of those two candidates would be able to beat Hiromu here, and it was his year.
Yeah, I mean, it was all about him this year, that year-long title run. He was behind putting together the Junior Festival in Japan, the Junior Festival in the USA. He was wrestling a lot in other promotions, even though there were non-title matches, a lot of excursion matches, and, a lot of title defenses. I mean, everything around the junior division was him. I mean, he started off the year winning the title at Wrestle Kingdom 17 in that fatal four-way. So, it was just a really great year for Hiromu that was kind of built about him and his whole quest to beat the junior defense record. So moving on. Actually, before one thing, I think big shout out to the Master Wato, though. I know a lot of people give him a hard time, and he won Super Juniors. He had that incredible match with Teton. This is definitely the highest he's ranked in our votings for Junior of the Year. So I think that's good stuff there from Wato.
Yeah.
So then moving on to the tag team of the year. So
here we go.
Coming in third place with 273 points, the current never openweight 6-man tag team champions, Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Coming in second place with 307 points, Catch 2-2, TJP, and Francesco Akira. And then our first place and winners in tag team of the year, the former IWGP World Tag Team Champions, but the winners of the World Tag League, Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi.
Year after year after year, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, we seem to get this category wrong. And I think it goes like this, Jeremy. I think it's a very simple thing. Generally speaking, not every year, but most years, whoever is the predominant, dominant tag team in the IWGP tag team ranks, meaning the heavyweights, they win this award, regardless of what kind of work the junior tag team champions or the trios champions have done. And I feel strongly that, yes, Bishamon had an incredible year. There's no denying it. And anyone that voted for them, I wouldn't say like bullshit. It's not like that. But the point disparity, now this was a closer category for sure, but the point disparity between a Team Hall of Fame / the All-Star team / whatever you want to call them, but Okada, Ishii, and Tanahashi versus these other two, it was too far apart in my opinion. And when you look at how many successful title defenses they've had and how many banger matches, like just absolute standout classic matches they've had, none of the other candidates in this category stack up to them in that regard. And it's biased because they're a trio.
That's what I'm thinking. And you look at the first place votes. All the first place votes are pretty close, but the second place votes really hurt Team Hall of Fame here. A lot of second place votes for Catch 2-2 and Bishamon. Yeah. And then same with the third place votes. So yeah, I do think there are probably a lot of people that are like, this is a tag team of the year. They're a 6-man team. Can't be having that. So they're my third place vote. But Bishamon, though, World Tag League win at the beginning of the grading period. They were tag team champs all throughout the year, even though they dropped it to Aussie Open, but they got them right back and had several great defenses throughout the year. 2 matches with Aussie Open in the grading period, the match against Tanahashi and Okada. There were so many great defenses of TMDK matches, and maybe their matches weren't like match of the year blow away, but
they had a few.
Yeah, but I do think we mentioned. I think Bishamon's a very underrated team as far as work. People think, you think Goto, you think Yoshihashi. You kind of think about their status as singles, but then you put them together and just the resume that they have as a tag team since officially forming Bishamon, and now 3 World Tag League wins, multiple tag team reigns and defenses. These guys have really established themselves as a top domestic tag team.
Well, here's the other thing too. This isn't the most egregious of the robberies that we've seen for this award in the past. If it weren't for the fact that it's happened almost every single year since this award has existed, I wouldn't even have sour grapes. But it's just a continuation of a trend of racism basically against 6-man tag teams. They don't they're prejudiced. But but no, and shout out to Catch 2-2 because they were very close. This was one of the closer categories. They had a standout year too. And I honestly at the first quarter of the year, the way that obviously things didn't work out, but the way that Aussie Open was going, I was like, damn, they're gonna be tag team of the year, like the way things are going. And then suddenly they were just gone, and it was like, oh shit, I guess not. But
Yeah.
Bishamon had a fantastic year, and they are deserved winners here. So
So moving on to the Carl Gotch Strong Style Award, coming in third place with 185 points, Zack Sabre Jr. Coming in second place with 254 points, the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii. And our winner in first place with 341 points, the fourth consecutive year in a row, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi.
yeah, man. Year after year, the way that this award is shaking out, it's basically, who do you represent? Are you riding with Ishii or are you riding with Shingo?
And most people, the last 4 years, they're riding with Shingo.
Has he won this 4 years in a row?
Yes, this year, this win is his fourth consecutive win. So we might need to change this to the Carl Gotch / Shingo Takagi Strong Style of the Year award.
No, we can't. Here's the thing. You're right in a certain sense, but like the fact that like a predominantly Dragon Gate guy, a guy that was like trained by Animal Hamaguchi, like represents the Strong Style Award is so absurd. But yeah, it's really funny. And I mean, it makes all the sense in the world because Shingo Takagi, if there's anything that President Tanahashi needs to rectify when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, they need to push Shingo. Like they just need to. And this award is evidence of that because in the opinions of the educated, smart Western fans and probably Japanese fans too, based on the Chartable rankings. But those who vote in this award, they see Shingo Takagi as the representative of modern day strong style. And it's deservedly so. You look at the matches he had with Hanare, who, by the way, has been incredible this year. But he gave Hanare the best matches of his career.
Mm-hmm.
The match with Ishii, the match with Eddie Kingston, the matches with just a variety of opponents. Taichi, like the list goes on. And it's getting to the point now that like whatever title Shingo holds at whatever given time, that's the strong style belt. Like when he was the IWGP champion, strong style title. When he was never champion, same thing. When he held the KOPW, the title that means the least in all of pro wrestling, prestige. This man is gold, and they need to push him.
Yeah, I mean, Shingo is absolutely incredible, and also he encapsulates this award with the hard-hitting style he does, but he's very good technically. You think back to the matches he had with Zack Sabre in 2021, 2022, he kind of displayed some of his technical stylings there. So I think all around, Shingo's just an incredible performer. And yeah, this award, I think, lends to that fourth year in a row. So yeah, I'm all in for a Shingo push. He's definitely a guy that should be in more main events, should be a champion all year and somebody that you build around.
Yeah, and shout out to Tomohiro Ishii and Zack Sabre Jr., the runners-up. Especially I'd like to point out Zach. I mean, he came up a little bit short in both Wrestler of the Year and Strong Style Wrestler of the Year, but his years are definitely being recognized by the voters, and it would be a shame if I don't think he's going to win any awards here this year, but like, dude, 16 successful title defenses of the KOPW title, being at the forefront of TMDK and everything that he did this year. And I feel like 2024 is going to be a huge year for that guy.
Yeah, I think Zach's going to have a really great year this year. Something very interesting, too, in the voting, some guys that kind of came close to breaking into third place, Hanare and El Desperado. And I think that shows kind of the years that they've had, Hanare with that, the Ultimate Triad match against Shingo, and just some of the other work that he's done throughout the year. Desperado, that probably got a lot of votes here with the Junkasai tag match in the match against Moxley from those Independence Day shows. So shout out to those guys for getting a lot of votes here.
Fucking Washington scored. I swear to God, if we lose, I'm gonna cry on the air. Like, you're gonna see a grown man break down, like lose the shit.
Next category was a new category that we added this year, the Joshi of the Year. And again, to clarify, this was for the Joshi that competed on New Japan branded shows or were in strong women's title defense, IWGP women's title defenses.
And by Joshi, we mean just any women that competed. We mean it by the literal definition of Joshi, which means girl.
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually didn't get a lot of people being like, why do you have this category?
I still think that people voted based on the designation of what a Joshi, as in a designation of like female Japanese pro wrestling style wrestler, as opposed to just females that wrestled. So maybe I didn't pick but I had to pick it. It's so trolly.
So coming in third place with 233 points, Mercedes Moné. In second place, 286 points, Mayu Iwatani. And then coming in first place, 526 points, the strong women's champion, Julia.
You know, Jeremy, I'm not going to lie here. I couldn't add too much to the discourse about why Julia or Mayu scored over Mercedes. And mainly that's because the amount of attention we have to give to New Japan Pro Wrestling is pretty exhaustive, and it precludes me from being able to follow many other, wrestling promotions. So I wasn't able to follow like the exploits of Julia and Mayu in Stardom, but I'm guessing that the listeners of this show probably are following what's going on in Stardom to a greater degree than maybe we realized, because they scored above Mercedes. Now, I will say this, I can definitely see why Mercedes didn't do as well as maybe I had initially thought. Probably a lot of that has to do with like the controversy and the split fan responses regarding her involvement, maybe even, the weak nature of her initial debut at Wrestle Kingdom and how that kind of flopped. And then, she didn't stick around, past like, the first quarter of the year. Like, you don't really hear from her too much after that. And then it looks like she's on her way to AEW. Mm-hmm. And maybe that kind of left a sour taste in some of the fans, feelings about things. I will say, though, if you look at our Joshi match of the year, her name shows up probably more than any of the other women that we had listed. But in defense of Mayu and in defense of Julia, those are two of the most recognizable names from Stardom, even for someone like myself who's just kind of a novice when it comes to, current day Japanese Joshi wrestling. Those are the two biggest names that I know of. So very popular in the West. And then when it comes to their title reigns, Mayu not only, won the IWGP title from Mercedes, but she had that incredible match with Utami earlier in the year, which I did get a chance to check out. And thus far, she's the most successful IWGP Women's Championship title holder that we've had. And, same thing with Julia. Julia is sitting right now, as we speak, at 7 all-time defenses of the strong women's title, which is, me and Jeremy were talking about this, and I don't know if you guys saw the post I put on Twitter, but once you hit like 7 defenses of any title in New Japan history, you're in like rarefied air. You've hit like the top 10 all-time defense records. So that probably has a lot to do with it. Plus, Julia is just loved. Like, she's got that crossover appeal. That's the reason WWE wants her.
All the boys love Julia.
Yeah. So, I can't sit here and say I saw every one of her title matches. And, she wasn't really predominantly featured in New Japan. I mean, she really just kind of had the strong Independence Day show matches for the most part, but she's defended that title very proactively. She's had a lot of title defenses, and she's extremely popular in her home promotion.
Yeah, I think the thing that really hurt Mercedes was just being gone the second half of the year. I mean, she got that injury. What was that? I think that was like April or May in the Strong Women's title tournament, and then from there she was gone, never came back. So I think she did a lot in the time she was there and had some of the better matches in that kind of short January to April, May time frame. But like you mentioned, when you look at what Julia and Mayu did throughout the whole calendar year, there was a ton of defenses, and not to mention just how popular they are in Stardom as well. So I could definitely see why the voting shook out this way.
Yeah.
So then we have the feud of the year coming in third place with 214 points, the Reiwa Musketeers. That's Yota Tsuji, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita. And then in second place, 345 points, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega. And then in first place, 414 points, Kazuchika Okada versus the New Generation.
Well, one thing I noticed here that was really interesting, even though they came in third place overall, the Reiwa Musketeers actually had the most second place votes of the three categories, which is pretty remarkable, which kind of tells me that a lot of people were like, I either like the Kenny Ospreay match or I like Okada versus the New Generation most. And then second, I like the Reiwa Musketeers, which kind of tells you how much that match endeared itself to the fan base.
Yeah, and I feel like with the Musketeers, I know there was a lot of questions about the whole labeling them Musketeers and them being in the A block, and I know we kind of criticized that last week of all of them kind of being lumped together, but clearly the fan bases are very excited about seeing these guys feud and rival and kind of see who's going to end up in the slot in the pecking order. You have your Tsuji camp, you have your Narita camp, you have your Umino camp, and they're starting to kind of build up, some.
No, you don't. You got your Tsuji camp and you got your Umino camp.
Well, there was a Narita camp.
There used to be a Narita camp.
But yeah, people are kind of getting behind their favorite Musketeers and wanting to see them succeed, and just kind of this generational rivalry they have. I think it really kind of captured people's attention this year, and I think some of that kind of plays into the whole Okada versus New Generation, because a lot of those guys are the guys that are facing off against Okada throughout the year. So I think there is a lot of interest in the New Generation, and I think again that's why these guys need to be getting pushed. Like, people are already kind of behind them and like them, and they need to be elevated now.
Yeah, and full disclosure, when it comes to the first and second place categories here, Omega Ospreay was very close behind Okada versus the New Generation. But what it really just came down to, even though they were close, like Okada versus the New Generation just had a few more first place, second place, and third place votes. So like when you looked on the graph, like they were like very close, but just a tad few more people really just enjoyed the Okada versus New Generation feud across the board. And that kind of gave it that nudge. And this is an interesting one because it's a story that really dominated the first half of the year. And once Okada went to Forbidden Door and lost to Bryan Danielson and then went into the G1, and we fully anticipated him being in a block with all of those young guys, and it didn't happen.
He should have been in Sonata's spot.
He should have been in Sonata's spot. And when that didn't happen, it kind of killed the whole Okada versus the New Generation story. Like, there was no payoff. And that was the one drawback to this story. But when you look at the first half of the year and you look at the tag matches he was having against all these young guys, and this includes Kiyomiya. So you factor in the feud with Kiyomiya, with the Noah crossover shows and the shoot kick and the big match that they had at the Tokyo Dome at Muto's retirement, and then the stuff he was doing with Umino and Narita in the US, as well as at the year end, and the tag match they had with Tanahashi, like this, and him just being a dick to all of those guys, and then him beating up young lions for fun in the meantime. Like, it was an incredible story. It just didn't get its appropriate payoff, and hopefully it looks like in the very near future we might get an abridgment to that story, because it looks like they're starting to kind of go that way with Fujita and the Team DK trio. But it is interesting because when you look at Ospreay and Omega, really that's a 2-match series. We don't typically like to nominate just a 2-match series unless it's exemplary. And obviously with that feud, you kind of have to, like,
right. Two match of the year candidates, two just blow away incredible matchups.
plus the promos, plus the press conferences, plus the acclaim and everything. And I was a little surprised that didn't win. I will admit, I think I was one of those individuals that actually I don't remember. I don't remember which one of these two I went with first.
I think I went with the Omega Ospreay one first, and then Okada New Gen second.
I'd have to look, but I can't turn off the game, so I'm not sure. But I will say this though. It's very rare that we have a feud of the year that's not centered around a set series of matches. That's more based on the emotions of things. Like the last time I remember this kind of happening was like when Suzuki and Liger won the award, and they only had the one singles match, and everything else was just story beats in between. And that won that year. And I know you were like surprised when that happened. I feel like there's going to be some like work rate aficionados. Rich Latta's going to be listening right now, and he's going to be pissed because Kenny and Ospreay, got shortchanged. But like, it makes sense to me as a New Japan fan why this particular feud was the most beloved. Plus, it wasn't the strongest year for feuds in general.
Right, and also too, when you look with the second Omega Ospreay match, that kind of happened more in AEW than necessarily in New Japan.
Yeah, they even kind of changed the kayfabe and played around with the face heel alignment in that match as well.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to the Big Van Vader Gaijin of the year, coming in third place with 98 points, the Headbanger El Phantasmo. Coming in second place with 369 points, Zack Sabre Jr., and then in first place with 620 points, Will Ospreay.
Who's the most popular white guy award? No, there's not much more that I could say about Will. We've already kind of, sung his praises. Same thing with Zach. I will say, even though it was only the 96 points, granted, it was pretty clear that Zach and Will were going to be your primary winners of this. The fact that ELP placed is kind of a little bit of a sign of how the fan base is viewing him as well.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is he only got third place by 1 point. Leo Rush had 97 points and was 1 point away from breaking into top 3, which shows what a great year Leo had last year in New Japan. And, if he can come back or sticks around, like I think people, see him as a top star, and we're really invested in what he did last year.
Well, call up President Ace. Let's see if we can work something out. Apparently Leo Rush is a man looking for a home right now. So
yeah,
but I don't think we're ever going to see him again. I think he burned that bridge.
So moving on to Faction of the Year. So coming in at third place with 231 points are Dogs for Real, the Bullet Club War Dogs.
Wow.
Coming in at second place with 291 points, United Empire. And then coming in first place, reclaiming their crown with 334 points, Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Yeah, for years and years, this was the LIJ award. When they finally break up, we might need to call this the LIJ Faction of the Year award for real. Last year was the first year, and I thought 2 years ago that it should have been Suzuki-gun, and they didn't win. They got beat slightly. And then last year, the insurmountable finally was surmounted when United Empire broke the streak, and not since the days of Undertaker and Brock Lesnar has such a prestigious streak been broken, but it happened, and they came close again this year. But I feel like with the signing away of Aussie Open and the signing away of Will Ospreay, plus nobody knows what happened to Gideon Gray. It's a big mystery. That pretty much sealed their fate. And LIJ did have a fantastic year. And you know what else I kind of feel like, and I don't know if this factors in, but like obviously Sonata is part of Just Five Guys, but like because of the mythos and the story surrounding the world title and how it's still kind of been a LIJ centric thing with all the different members challenging, I feel like that kind of elevated the status of LIJ in the eyes of the fans. And you combine that with Hiromu's year, Shingo's year, and Naito winning the G1. It is kind of hard to disagree that they weren't the top stable in New Japan this year.
Right. Also, you had the addition of Yota Tsuji, and he came in with a big splash, coming in, wrestling Dontaku, attacking Sonata,
true.
Having a world title match at Dominion. And then, there was Bushi. Cool.
Bushi was there.
He had some great masks this year. Teton, Super Junior, second place in the Super Juniors. So yeah, across the board.
And if we're talking associates, my dog Xandacon Jr. making a splash.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's outside the grading period. We can't.
Oh yeah. So Bull Club War Dogs seems like
a little surprised. Just 5 guys didn't make it into the talk here. Another thing we didn't mention it, but we kind of got to bring it up here. Sonata, world champion all year long, didn't place in the top 3 for Wrestler of the Year. Shame.
Yeah.
For shame.
I'm pretty sure that's the first time that's ever happened where the current IWGP world champion / heavyweight champion doesn't make the top 3.
And you could say like, oh, it's just smart marks, blah, blah, not, or, it's just whatever. Look at how educated our awards have been. There's been a lot of kind of surprising, results, kind of showing you how tuned in those who vote in these awards really are. So, I mean, it's not just like, these particular segments of fans. Like, there's a wide variety of fans, and none of them thought Sonata deserved to be in the top 3.
So next we have most improved. So coming in 3rd place with 191 points, Ichiban Sweet Boy Kosei Fujita. Coming in 2nd place with 299 points, Master Wato. And then coming in 1st with 338 points, the Roughneck Shota Umino.
So Umino won here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not surprised whatsoever. This is always a really close category because there's a lot of people. It's a very competitive field when it comes to New Japan, and they do give opportunities, and maybe people don't move up as fast as you'd like them to, but they do give pushes, they give opportunities. People often seize that. We do see people making these incremental improvements. And I mean, you look at the beginning of the year for Umino and the perception of him, just going back even just prior to the grading period, and people were talking about like, I don't know if this is the guy. And you look at the big match he had with Naito, and people being like, gee, we might be in trouble, blah blah blah. And you finish the year, and the match he had with Will and everything that he did in the G1 and all that, and it's like, okay, this guy, he's on the right track. So huge improvements there. There were a lot of other guys. Who were the other finalists that you mentioned?
So Vegeta came in 3rd, and Wato was second.
The other person I voted for, and I had very high personally, I think they were like probably 4th, was like Hanare.
Yeah, Hanare had 175 points, so very close to breaking into 3rd.
Yeah, very close, but Fujita has really endeared himself to the fan base, so that makes a lot of sense. And then Wato, speaking of what you mentioned during the Jushin Liger Award, even though he came in 3rd there, like, he's never placed that high there. He's never placed as high here. And some of the attention has been off of Wato, admittedly, lately. They've been focusing as a company more on Hiromu and El Desperado, but let's not imagine that with the entire backstory between Desperado and Wato the whole year and then through the tag tournament, that there's no way that they're not going to link up again in some way down the line. Like, that shit's going to happen. And that's probably going to be the big opportunity for Wato this coming year.
Mm-hmm. So next up, we have the newcomer of the year. So coming in 3rd place with 144 points, Drilla Maloney. Coming in 2nd place with 397 points, Shota Umino. And then with 585 points, the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, so this award's always an interesting one because we have a lot of rules as to who qualifies. And, one of those rules is when you debut as a young lion, we include you. And then when you go off on your excursion, if you come back, we count that as well, because even though it's the same person, it's a whole new character and a whole new iteration of their career. So that's kind of one of the unique things we do with this. The other thing too is, if somebody debuted in the previous grading period, like for instance, Shota Umino, he debuted prior to World Tag League last year, but it was in such a, it was basically a month out. There wasn't enough time to really get a grade on him. It wouldn't have been fair to include him in last year's grading. If it's a very short time period, we'll grandfather them into the next year. So that's what we did here. And then the other thing too is like they have to have never really wrestled for New Japan in the past. They have to kind of be part of the company and not necessarily be like, predominantly, someone that predominantly wrestles for
Eddie Kingston,
yeah,
your John Moxley, guys like Speedball Mike Bailey was a name that we potentially consider, but he is an Impact contracted wrestler.
Yeah, if they're contracted elsewhere, we don't really consider them here. But cutting to the chase, Yota Tsuji, he's been my guy since he came back, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way, and he's really just beloved by the fan base. And we keep saying, time and time again, even though he hasn't done anything as of yet to really prove in terms of kayfabe, he hasn't gotten the big win. He hasn't really achieved much. He hasn't won any titles, but he's just a fucking star. He even lost in the Dome. And he already still feels right now like a guy that can eat a million losses and still rebound and be the top star in the company, even with the major losses that he's had so far. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, but he's just fucking awesome. He's got tassels, he's got long hair,
he does flips,
he does cool Yave shit. He does inventive moves. He's funny. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He gets it, and he literally gives off star aura. He's awesome.
Yeah, honestly, I think probably one of the best debuts, re-debuts of a young lion since we've been doing the show. Probably next to Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah,
coming back, the incredible debut. That first match with Sonata was like, holy crap! This guy is incredible.
Bro, Dave Meltzer is still talking about how he should have beat Sonata.
Yes, I agree, Dave.
I don't agree with everything Dave says. He says some stupid shit sometimes. I don't know if you heard that Matt Riddle shit he said.
I heard him say something. I don't even remember now.
It's just Dave being an old guy.
Yeah, we'll talk about Riddle in a few minutes, unfortunately. So next up, we got the Fighting Spirit Award. So coming in third place with 209 points, Sonata finally wins the big one.
He finally finished the story and placed in the Keepin' It Strong Style Awards.
Coming in second place, 225 points, Ospreay, the real world champion. And then coming in first place, 288 points, Naito with the G1 hat trick.
Very close point totals, as you can see there. This was one of the closer categories, and it came down to Ospreay and Naito, kind of like the G1 did in the semifinals there. But Naito did end up walking away with it, and for good reason. At his age, and given all the injuries and everything like that, he was able to turn back the clock just slightly. I'm not gonna sit here and try to say that he is washed or he's an old guy, but there were a lot of people that were wondering if we were ever going to see another major run for Tetsuya Naito or see him ever hold championship gold ever again. And he's got a lot of supporters, as evidenced by this past Wrestle Kingdom. And, when you look at the match he had with Okada, I know it didn't place in the top matches this year for our top 3, but I still gave that 5 stars. And to me, that was one of the most special environments I've ever seen for a pro wrestling match in New Japan history. And so, yeah, it was a really special moment, and I can see why he got the nod here for Fighting Spirit Award.
Yeah, definitely. I think, LIJ fans were waiting for that moment and wanting Naito to win the G1. So, yeah, I think obviously a lot of LIJ fans, a lot of big Naito supporters out there. So, yeah, definitely a big moment here for Naito getting that a third overall G1 career win and being able to go to the Tokyo Dome, finish his story, and win the big one. So, yeah, shout out to Naito there. Then Ospreay, we were talking about the incredible year he had and how people saw him as the world champion. And then I know we gave Sonata a hard time, but yeah, it was, a big moment for him to finally win the IWGP World Heavyweight title and to get moved up into the main event scene. All right, moving on to the Young Lion of the Year award. Coming in at third place with 182 points, Bolton Oleg. Coming in second place with 348 points, Rihoi Oiwa. And then coming in first place, 546 points, Ichiban Sweet Boy Kosei Fujita.
Yeah, this was another interesting award, and you kind of never know how the fans and the participants are going to vote in terms of their considerations, because we kind of just put the nomination out there. We do the the awards presentation in terms of like what our nominations were and what our thinking was, but I'm sure not everybody that votes listens to that. So, when you look at the success of Oiwa and Fujita in this award, you kind of have to wonder, like, are they just voting based on the time when they were categorized as young lions, or are they also considering like their excursions or that weird in-between period that both of these guys seem to have where they like announced they were sort of graduated? It's kind of confusing with them. But both of them very popular. They've sort of endeared themselves, and I would say, Fujita more so than even Oiwa at this point. And I think a lot of that alignment with TMDK has been a large part of that, plus the story that they were telling where he was a young lion as a member of TMDK, which is extremely unique. And we saw a lot of growth and personality and change to his character throughout the calendar year from that.
Yeah, that was definitely a very kind of unique thing to happen. I think that helped fans get invested in Fujita because he was on screen more. He with Sabre, teaming up with Robbie Eagles, teaming up with Hasten Nichols. So kind of being a part of that faction while not fully graduating, and then eventually graduating, doing that tour of Australia with Robbie. So yeah. I think that the fans really got invested and enjoyed the run of Fujita this year.
Plus, he picked up a singles win over, like, I don't remember who it was. It might have been like Jado or Gato or something like that. But
yeah, I think it was Gato, yeah.
And that's extremely rare as well. Mm-hmm. Just to see a young lion pick up a win over any, full roster member of New Japan.
Yeah. So next up, the Strong Style Fight of the Year. Coming in at third place with 170 points, Hanare versus Shingo Takagi from Road to Secure Genesis, the Ultimate Triad match. Coming in second place with 177 points, Gabe Kidd versus Kaito Kiyomiya from July 27th from the G1 Climax. And then coming in first place with 257 points, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega from January 4th, Wrestle Kingdom 17.
You're sure about those points? For some reason, I thought that Gabe Kidd and Kiyomiya were third place.
Let me pull it up and double check. Here.
I'm gonna do this live. For some reason, when I even before we tallied the votes, and maybe I'm incorrect here, like it just looked to me like the Ultimate Triad match between Shingo and Hanare was the second place, but I could be wrong here.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. Pulling up the ballot here. Let's see. Strong style fight of the year.
That's the one.
All right, let's see. So
Just give it a quick gander. You don't got to do the points. Just take a look at that chart and tell me.
so Hanare Shingo, they had 37 first place points. Kiyomiya and Kid had 23.
See?
But Kiyomiya and Kid had 36 second place and 36 third place votes.
Okay, so that might have put them over the edge.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably why we got a little confusion here. So that's also an interesting talking point, though. So the Ultimate Triad match got a lot more first place votes than that, but that match kind of resonated with a lot of people's ballots for the second and third place to a higher degree and put it over the edge. So that's an interesting, kind of talking point there. Both of those matches, extremely violent, very memorable, something that kind of sticks out, to people that were voting this year. But let's talk real quick about Ospreay and Omega, because yes, they won match of the year this year, but this is a Keeping It Strong style fight of the year first. The whole reason we instituted this entire award was we were like, generally speaking, not always, but generally, whatever is going to win match of the year is going to be like the best match, but it's not like the most violent, visceral,
hard-hitting
match.
Yeah,
it's not like that thing that you're like, damn, that was crazy. And for the first time ever, the match of the year is the fight of the year. And that has never happened in the history of these awards. And while I'll admit personally, I'm pretty sure that I don't know, but I think I voted for the Ultimate Triad match as my number one vote. I'm not surprised that this match ran away with it, because we talked about a lot of the accolades of this match, but the one thing we didn't discuss in depth was just how fucking violent it was. And this wasn't even your traditional quote unquote strong style fight of the year. Normally, the matches that have won this in the past typically tend to be like
Ishii, Shingo, Goto, like stuff like those kind of guys.
Ibushi, Taichi, stuff where it's like full of hard strikes. Very, Ibushi and Ishii won it one year, and those kinds of matches. This wasn't really like structured in the sense of your, general Puroresu strong style fight. This was like a dismantling and an ass kicking of epic proportions from
Kenny Omega is beating the crap out of Will.
Yeah, Kenny Omega beat the shit out of Will Ospreay, so much so that it was like, fuck, this is uncomfortable.
Is this still a work?
And they ran away with it. So Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first place vote. I mean, that was just so hard hitting, so brutal. Kenny brutalized that man. Ospreay was bleeding like crazy. Like, it was just such a hard hitting. Everything about that match was a spectacle. And yeah, normally a match, your typical like big main event like this is typically not on here, because like you mentioned, it's more, those matches are more your kind of like big match pro wrestling, more technical match, a lot of cool moves, a lot of cool holds, but not necessarily a lot of like big strikes or a feeling of fight. But this match felt like a fight. Ospreay felt like he was fighting for his life at the end. Like he was trying to literally sort of just, not even just win, just try to survive, just be able to walk out the ring on his own power. And these guys absolutely killed it. Very violent, brutal, bloody match. And yeah, it deserves to be strong style fight of the year.
First ever time, fight of the year, match of the year in the same awards. That's astounding to me. I know for a lot of people listening, they're probably not that shocked by it, but us compiling these every year, they're just never the same thing. So the fact that it finally happened is kind of nuts.
Yeah. Moving on to the junior match of the year, coming in third place with 178 points. Hiromu Takahashi versus Lio Rush from March 21st. Coming in second place, 189 points. El Desperado versus Francesco Akira from May 21st in the Super Juniors. And then coming in first place with 379 points, Master Wato versus Teton from May 28th, the best of the Super Junior finals.
Yeah. Hiromu, he had some fantastic title matches this year, and a lot of the best matches from this year's Super Juniors he was involved in. But the match that stood out to almost everybody that watched, plus with the fact that it happens in the finals, it gets that extra set of attention, some extra eyeballs on it. But Wato and Teton was a final match that nobody was expecting to get at all. Like, it was on almost nobody's ballot.
Yeah.
And it really fucking ruled. It over delivered to a high degree. And I'm not surprised that it's the junior match of the year whatsoever.
Yeah, it was just that match that, as people are doing their fantasy booking and their pick'ems, nobody was picking these guys to be in the finals or get this far. And yeah, they got there. And I think people were even kind of questioning it, like, all right, why Teton and Wato? And then they went out there and killed it and had an incredible blow-away junior matchup, and big moment for Wato, big for Teton. And yeah, definitely that was my number one vote. Definitely the junior match of the year.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that match, go out of your way to watch it. Michigan struggles in the red zone, but they clinch a field goal, 20-10. Let's go, baby. Actually, I'm nervous. We're not playing so hot in the second half. So
next up, we got tag team match of the year. So coming in third place with 188 points, El Desperado and Jun Kasai versus Homicide and John Moxley from July 4th. That was Independence Day Night 1. Then coming in second place with 219 points, Bishamon versus Aussie Open from April 8th. And then in first place with 243 points, Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, and Shota Umino versus Team Hall of Fame from June 4th. That was Dominion.
Yeah, this was since we've been doing these awards and we've instituted this category, this was easily the most deep selection of tag team matches of the year. So much so that there were a lot of deserving candidates that we wound up cutting, which never happens for this category. So like, this is one of the greatest tag team years in New Japan history, honestly. Even though it's kind of low key, you don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But when you look back at the records, you're like, damn, there's a lot of great tag matches. And the winners here, it's very interesting. This was another really close category. So much so that the match from Dominion with the BCC and versus the All-Star team, they didn't win the most first place votes. That actually was Bishamon versus Aussie Open from Sakura Genesis, which I thought that was going to win. And up until literally like the last minute, a bunch of, as happens every year, like a bunch of last minute votes come in, those ballots, and they just eat the Dominion 6-man just over the edge. And they didn't win as many first place votes, but their total mattered. And that kind of goes to show you that, like, you really, when you're voting in these awards, you really have to put a lot of thought into your third, second, and first, because, you might think it doesn't matter, but that point differential can really push someone over the edge.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened here. Kind of glad this one. I was a big fan of this. I was a big fan of this matchup. I went 5 stars on them. I thought the match was absolutely incredible. I just remember watching it and afterwards being like, man, that was just an incredible matchup. So yeah, no 6-man bias here. We had a 6-man match that won this award here. And yeah, if you haven't watched that Dominion match, that was just absolutely incredible. Claudio's first time in Japan for New Japan. And then just the chemistry there, the rivalry with like Okada and Umino, kind of the ending of that Okada versus New Generation rivalry there. Yeah, great stuff.
Any of those three matches could have easily won, in my opinion. And me personally, the match I voted number one didn't even place in the top three. And I'm not a bad rater and opinion taker or whatever. We've been doing the show for a long time. I voted for the Suzuki-gun breakup from the end of the year.
Yeah, which it got some love. It got 143 points, so very close to getting into third place.
But that's the thing. This year's tag team, tag match of the year was so deep that anything that was on that ballot could have easily won. It just kind of depended on what got the most eyes and what endeared itself, to the affections of the voters. So they're all deserving. And that's the great thing about these awards. If you go back and you look at what we nominated, it is like a nice little playlist of the best stuff to watch from New Japan for the year.
Yeah, I feel like in any other year that Suzuki-gun tag would have placed, but yeah, this year was just so stacked with incredible tag matches.
It's not even sour grapes for me. I don't care. Like the Dominion 6-man tag deserves to win, so it makes sense. But it's just this was a crazy year for tag team matches.
Up next, the second part of the new category, so the Joshi match of the year. Coming in third place with 204 points, Mayu Iwatani versus Utami Hayashishita from August 13th. Coming in second place with 253 points, Mercedes Moné versus Azumi versus Hazuki from April 8th. And then coming in first place with 331 points, Mercedes Moné versus Kairi from February 18th.
Yeah. Again, Utami and Mayu placing as high as they did. That didn't happen in a New Japan ring. That had happened in Stardom. So that kind of tells you again how educated the listenership is when it comes to various wrestling outside of New Japan. So that's pretty impressive. But the main match here that won, Kairi versus Mercedes, not only was that match phenomenal, it did incredible business here stateside. That was Battle in the Valley? Yeah, the fact that they basically sold out Battle in the Valley off the backs of those two women, which is, a great showing and something kind of historic when it comes to the drawing ability of those girls, especially Mercedes Moné. And then the match that they had was blow away. And I know for a fact that the Mercedes run didn't live up to the expectations of a lot of people, the crew and, different people that were very hopeful of what that might have turned out to be. But we still got this gem of a match. And, Kairi's gone and Mercedes is gone, but we still got the memories. And this was undoubtedly the best women's match of the year. And, I'd be curious to kind of watch it as a playback to, we didn't have this category last year, but it's pretty clear that the inaugural IWGP women's match between Mayu and Kairi would have definitely won last year if we'd had this category. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have enough, there wasn't enough women's matches in New Japan at the time to even do this sort of category. But I'd be interested to see how those two matches play against one another as like the all-time New Japan women's match as of now.
Yeah, definitely be fun to watch those back. Yeah, this match was great. They took a lot of crazy bumps in there, and I think Mercedes kind of proved to people that, she can still go and she is as great as people say she is, and it definitely kind of made us feel a little bit optimistic. All right, what can they actually do with this title? Or they're going to do some more great matches like this, stuff like that. Also, that didn't pan out, but still a big moment, great matchup, and would, if things could work out, I know the scuttlebutt on the town is that Mercedes is heading to AEW, but if there was any chance for her to come back and do some more stuff for the Strong or IWGP Women's title or show up in Stardom again, I think that would be great.
Washington scores a field goal on the 30-yard line. So 13-20, it's a 1-goal game. Very close. I'm nervous as fuck.
Next up, we got the excursion match of the year. Definitely.
Oh, we're almost done.
Yeah, we're on the home stretch here. This category definitely a labor of love throughout the year. Josh does a lot of work on this one for sure, and keeping track of this and getting.
It's the only thing I do work on the show.
So let's see here. Coming in third place with 158 points, Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey from Impact. This was October 21st. Then coming in second place with 236 points, Kazuchika Okada versus Kaito Kiyomiya from the Noah show from February 21st. And then coming in first place with 410 points, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from the AEW October 1st pay-per-view Wrestle Dream.
So one thing I will say, obviously, I've already made my opinions about Mike Bailey and Ospreay known on the show. If you didn't hear it, it's in the archive. Great match. I wasn't as high in it as everybody else was, but it clearly struck a chord with a large segment of the audience, and rightfully so. But what really surprised me here is Okada and Kiyomiya as the number 2, because there was some really great matches. Like I said earlier, this is a playlist of some of the best stuff that you could watch all year. But the fact that so many people voted for this particular match, which I'll tell you straight up, I thought the match was incredible. We praised it at the time. We kind of got blasted for how complimentary we were of the match at the time. And I don't know, if it's just kind of, stayed in the back of the minds and hearts of the listenership. I don't know. But there were a lot of matches that we have nominated here that I saw that I personally think were much better just across the board. But people are in to Kiyomiya and Okada. New Japan office, Rocky, whoever you are, whoever is listening that is connected to New Japan. The fans do not want to see Kiyomiya jobbed out and relegated to a no-name nobody. The New Japan fans fucking love this guy. They really do. And this is all the evidence in the world. There is still, even though you guys fucked up his run and you booked him into oblivion, there's money in Okada and Kiyomiya. Maybe you guys should go out and make some of that.
Yeah, I don't understand the booking of Kiyomiya, but clearly here the people really dug this match, and I felt at the time there were a lot of people who criticized the match, didn't really like the match, thought that it was too one-sided with Okada just kind of beating up Kiyomiya, but clearly
there was a lot of crying.
Yeah, there was, but clearly this audience, the people who voted here, they really enjoyed that matchup for what it was, and would probably like to see more of that rivalry. And yeah, they kind of dropped the ball with the follow up there. I feel like there could have been more. Not having Kiyomiya and Okada face off in the G1 quarterfinals was definitely a weird call. But yeah, great matchup here. And it's funny, every year when we work on these nominees and put this category together, there always is a large collection of Will Ospreay matches, and Josh is always like, we can't put all these Ospreay matches on here. And then,
bro, it's impossible, because if we put every top end Ospreay match that he had, the award would just be Ospreay matches.
I know, but the funny thing is, I don't think he's actually ever won this award.
He has. He won it with him and Zack Sabre Jr. from Rev Pro won it.
Okay, that won it 1 year, but most years you either place it or doesn't place at all, and something else wins. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, people all see they loved Danielson Sabre, and that was our winner here.
Yeah, very often the match that wins is whatever is the best match that also happened to take place in front of the most eyeballs. So not necessarily the best match, but the one that had the most critical acclaim plus buzz and just was easily accessible by a lot of people. And that's not to detract from what Danielson and Zack Sabre did, but it's just kind of show you there were other matches that are probably in the same range, honestly. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the benefit of why we do this, is to show you what's going on out there. But it was pretty much an open and shut case that it was going to be Danielson and Sabre. And this was not a close category, as most years it usually isn't.
Yeah.
And they had one of the best classical technical wrestling stories that we've seen in years. I know our friends over at One Nation Radio are still, not necessarily in agreement with the cage match score on this one, even though they like the match. But it was one of the highest ranking matches of the year. A lot of people, I think that there is actually an audience that is wanting to see this type of wrestling, and they're not getting enough of it currently.
Mhm.
And we're kind of like, wow, I'm blown away, like Bret Hart style, not like CM Punk Bret Hart style wrestling, but like
Real
the evolution,
Bret
the
Hart.
real, yeah. They were just blown away by that British, catch as catch, styling. Incredible match, and very much deservedly won this award.
So now we're at our second to last category here, the angle of the year. So coming in at third place with 157 points, Just 4 Guys becomes Just 5 Guys. So Sonata leaving LIJ and becoming the leader of Just 5 Guys. In second place with 266 points, Yota Tsuji returns. So that big angle we talked about earlier from Dontaku. And then in first place with 507 points, Kiyomiya shoot kicks Okada.
Yeah, that was the runaway winner. And it was very, we had some slight, me and Jeremy never really debate, but we were dialoguing about whether we should even include that, because it wasn't your typical traditional angle. It was something that took place in the middle of a match, but sometimes the best angles can take place in the middle of a match. Just depends on how it's presented. And, the match broke down, and like to this day, we still kind of don't know how real or how fake any of that even was. And I'm kind of like still, the lines are blurred there,
Mhm.
but it's one of the biggest things that got people talking all year long, and an incredible segment.
Yeah, it's hard not to visualize Kiyomiya's foot just wrapping around Okada's face. Like, you just mentioned that moment, I can instantly visualize that boot just whack across Okada's face, and then what happened afterwards.
Bro, we nominated that match for Fight of the Year, and you and I were both like, I don't even know if it should be on there, because it wasn't like a great match, but we're like, damn, it's like the most fucking violent thing that happened all year. Yeah, it's got to get nominated.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised here. And again, Okada versus Kiyomiya, it wins, it's in the feud of the year category. And it also wins, feud of the,
Excursion.
The excursion match of the year. And then it wins, angle of the year. So, I mean, that really left an indelible mark to people. And I think it does kind of show you that, like, New Japan, they failed to follow up on something that was really popular with people.
Yeah. All right, our final category here, the news story of the year. So coming in third place with 229 points, Mercedes Moné signs with Bushi Road. Coming in second place with 320 points, Kenny Omega returns. And then in first place, our top news story of 2023 with 357 points, Will Ospreay, Jay White, Juice Robinson, Aussie Open, and Kevin Kelly sign with All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, this was we're kind of cheating there, because we're mixing a lot of different news stories into one, which is basically like essentially a silent talent raid from AEW on New Japan. And it's like, again, a close category. The second place was a really positive story, Kenny returning to New Japan. And then the first place was a really negative story in AEW signing away a lot of New Japan's top talent. And, this one just slightly resonated more. I was surprised that the Kenny one did so well. I think I was advocating to like leave that off new story of the year entirely at one point. Jim was like, no.
Yeah, Big Ken almost got the first place vote here, and it shows you how much people love Kenny Omega and what he means to the New Japan audience.
Bro, he only wrestled one match the whole year. He almost won like 3 or 4 awards this year.
2 matches. He also had the New Year's Dash match.
Oh yeah, he wrestled 2. You're correcting me. He wrestled like 3 matches or 2 matches, 3 if you count Forbidden Door, and 2 in Japan, and he almost won a bunch of fucking awards again.
Like the good old days.
Yeah, man. People are not feeling all these people leaving for AEW.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of the vocal fan base and their displeasure on the way the partnership has been working with AEW and New Japan and the booking of some of the cross promotion matches and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of people I think really felt it with all these guys leaving and jumping ship.
But don't worry, because yes, we might have taken Kevin Kelly and Jay White and Aussie Open and Juice Robinson and Will Ospreay, but Bryan Danielson lost in the Tokyo Dome, so you guys are good.
Muto retired.
Also Kevin. Like fucking Eddie Kingston's about to break an all-time like defense record in New Japan, but it's all being booked by Tony Khan.
Muto retiring, almost broke into 3rd place, 212 points. Probably a lot of people very happy that he's.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if people were reverent or happy about that. It was hard to tell.
All right, well, that is the awards. We did have one question about this from a Reddit user, my baseball. With how long you guys have done the year-end awards, have you noticed any shift in what your audience likes? Or generally, how do you feel both of your individual tastes differ from that of your listeners?
I'll say this. I think that over the years, and I would not say this if I didn't think it was true. I think that our voters have gotten smarter and more engaged and have gained a deeper knowledge and appreciation of the product as the years have gone by. When we first started and we were new kids on the block, you kind of had I would say, generally speaking, just your very, New Japan was blowing up and you had like your surface level Bullet Club / elite style fans that were kind of permeating the voting. Plus, we didn't have the far reach in our early days to get as many voters as we do now, or we have for several years now. But as time's gone on, I mean, I'm usually mostly in agreement with what our voters vote. We do from time to time defer, but it's usually pretty small. And most of the people we're nominating them for a good reason to begin with in the first place. So, I'm not usually that surprised by the voting too often.
Yeah, I would say overall, I feel like our listenership is pretty much in line with how we're thinking, and like you said, for the nominees, like we're not putting stuff on there that we don't think deserve it. So if something wins, it wins. I mean, I think there's a couple times where there's a few things that we disagree with, and then we joked about tag team of the year stuff like with the Young Bucks, beating War Machine, and
they should have never beat War Machine. That's what started all of this.
And like you mentioned, we had more of that kind of Bullet Club fan base, in the beginning of our listenership. But besides that, I think, the fan base has kind of agreed with our tastes, very similar tastes. And I think, the major change is just kind of that Bullet Club elite fan base kind of leaving, and you're getting your more kind of diehard New Japan fans.
The only year where I ever felt like looking at the awards was like, what the fuck are we doing? Was the first, like 2020, the first year of the pandemic, but it was such a weird year.
Yeah.
It was hard to predict what was going to happen regardless.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up the awards. Thank you, everybody, for voting. We will be posting out the graphics later this week. So we can tag all the wrestlers and, they could retweet and
hopefully
disagree or agree with what they vote, what won. So good stuff there. Now we're going to move on to our Battle in the Valley preview. So Battle in the Valley coming up this weekend in San Jose. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we will be previewing this next week. It is still undecided whether I'll be on the show or not. Full disclosure, I am taking my Series 65 test, not this coming Friday, but the Friday following, which is the same week as we record next week. So while I will be watching Battle in the Valley, it depends on how confident I'm feeling about the test. If time is permitting, then I'll show up on the show. We are considering having a guest host, but worst case scenario, you might be hearing the solo tones of Jeremy Donovan.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get somebody on of us next week. But yeah, Battle in Valley this coming Saturday. Got 2 pre-show matches. So first, we got the return of the Strong Survivor match as Matt Vandegrift will take on Goldie. So again, the whole concept of the Strong Survivor match, these are students from the NJPW Academy, and it's kind of like a win and you're in. You keep winning to kind of earn spots on these U.S. pay-per-views, and Matt Vandegrift, I believe he's won 2 or 3 of these matches now.
Jeremy, I've seen both of these guys. I've reviewed their matches live on this program. I don't remember what either of these people look like. I don't remember what they stand for, who they are. I just know their names. So, yeah, I'm guessing I'll see them again here shortly, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what to tell you. They're some dudes.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Vandegrift, these matches have been like 5 minutes. He's looked fine for those 5 minutes, so I'm guessing he's probably going to win again and keep his streak going.
I'll tell you this much, and I don't want to shit on them because I'm sure they're prospective wrestlers. They probably are talented, but, from what I've seen come out of the academy, they're not exactly Carl Fredericks, you know what I'm saying?
The second pre-show match is going to be a NJPW Strong Women's Title #1 contendership match as Stephanie Vaquer will take on Viva Van.
I don't know who Viva Van is.
She's been on a lot of AEW Dark, kind of all over the independent scene. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on her.
Well, I like Stephanie Vaquer. I'm sure she's going to win, and she'll be the next #1 contender for the Strong title.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why we have 2 women's titles, but we do. So, yeah.
Now we go into the beginning of the main card. We'll open up with Fred Rosser, Jacob Fatu, and Shota Umino taking on the Team Filthy team of Jarrell Nelson, Royce Isaacs, and Filthy Tom Lawler.
Good to see Filthy Tom and, Team Filthy Wrestling here. I wasn't sure if they still work for this company or not.
I know, right? Glad they're on the main card, not the pre-show. Like him and Rosser were the last show. But yeah, so kind of this continuation of the feud between Fred Rosser, Tom Lawler. I think it was Jarrell Nelson that tweeted, like every year, we beat up on Fred Rosser. So the tradition continues, the blood rivalry here between Rosser and Tom Lawler. We got a debuting Jacob Fatu, who's turns heads on the independents and an MLW, very talented guy.
Yeah, it'll be good to see Jacob Fatu. As far as the whole thing with Fred Rosser, I'm a little confused because, correct me if I'm wrong, the last time we had a New Japan Strong show, he paid respect and was, returned respect from Filthy Tom Lawler. So I sort of thought that maybe that whole thing was ending, but apparently they're just going to keep feuding into perpetuity.
Yeah. Yeah, they had the pre-show match. It seemed like they showed respect, but never mind that.
Yeah, and it seemed at the time like it was leading to something down, like maybe them teaming together.
Being in World Tag League, because it was right before the tournament.
Yeah, it didn't pan out for whatever reason, but yeah, I don't know. But Shota Umino's here, so yay.
Then following that, our good friend Rocky Romero will team up with Soberano Jr. to take on Mascarada 2.0 and Bolador Jr.
our good friend Rocky Romero has gotten all of his good friends on the show. So, he wrestles as a heel in CMLL. So does Soberano Jr. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of lean into that a bit. But they're going up against Mascara Dorada and Volador Jr. Mascara Dorada, recently unseated Rocky Romero from the CMLL World Historic Welterweight title, and he feuded over that title with Volador Jr. this past year. So be interesting to see if something develops out of this match. I'm wondering if maybe we see Mascara Dorada and Soberano Jr. kind of spark something up and continue that over into Mexico. Maybe not. But, one thing we didn't talk about too much on the show, Soberano Jr., he's signed to a New Japan contract. And we haven't heard too much follow-up from that. This is going to be his first, quote-unquote contracted date with the company, or at least since it's been made public that he's signed to the brand. And last time that a luchador was signed to a dual contract was Dragon Lee when he was signed as Ryu Lee, and then the pandemic hit and he never worked for the company ever again. He just left. And prior to that was Mascara Dorada, the original. And New Japan signed him, and then he never came over, and he hardly ever worked for the company. And then he was just getting paid to be signed, and it didn't lead to anything. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually utilize him, because he's a really talented guy. I'd love to see them kind of bring him into the fold for real.
Yeah, he's definitely a great addition to the roster. I think he's going to be also a part of Fantastica Mania, assuming he'll be maybe in Best of Super Juniors, even though they did have him in World Tag League as a heavyweight. He does have the heavyweight height.
I think they see him as a heavyweight now, to be honest.
Yeah, so maybe he pops up in New Japan Cup. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of integrate him here. So then following that, we have TJP taking on the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion David Finlay in a non-title match. And this is going to build up into the 5-on-5 War Dogs versus United Empire match that's going to be coming up next month.
Yeah, at the tail end of the fallout from the no contest match that these two teams had against one another at New Year's Dash, TJP spewed red mist into the face of David Finlay. And as we all know, as highlighted by the kayfabe in WWE, red mist means that it not only blinds, but it burns the eyes. And I'm sure that Nakamura and Cody Rhodes are keeping up with that kayfabe and very much applying it. But yeah, TJP spewed the red mist into David Finlay's face, and that's kind of leading to this match. I didn't see the post-match comments coming out of New Year's Dash, but I heard that there was a comment from Will Ospreay where basically he asked who was going to lead the group in his stead, and TJP said that he was going to stand up. And I saw discourse online where people were like, has there ever been a junior that led a group in New Japan? And, people were quick to remind that Fergal Devitt did it. And, Kenny Omega technically was, a junior when he first manned the helm of Bullet Club. And, my response to all that is TJP ain't them. I think the big question leading into this match, though, is why isn't the title on the line? And number two, is TJP going to show up with the gimmicks?
The Aswang.
Yeah, I didn't even want to. I was going to say Quang, from 1995 WWF, but I don't remember. Couldn't remember what it was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it should be a fine match. I'm obviously expecting Dave Finlay to get the win here, and I'm sure there'll be some angle that builds heat to the 5-on-5.
And when you say fine, you mean a fine little 3-star match.
Yes, Gentlemen's 3.
Gentlemen's 3.
Following that, we will have the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team title match. The champions, Guerrillas of Destiny, El Fantasma and Hikuleo, will defend against the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Alex Coughlin and Clark Connors.
Yeah. So this one's interesting and this is for the Strong titles, right?
Right. Only the Strong tag titles.
So that's interesting that only the Strong titles are on the line here. Maybe that's to give us a sense of possibility for the Bullet Club War Dogs to pick up the win and be those new champions. The other thing too is like Clark Connors has regularly been teaming with Drill Maloney, and Alex Coughlin has regularly been teaming with Gabe Kidd. And although these two guys have a lot of history together going back to the LA Dojo, and they're no strangers to tag team wrestling, they just haven't been portrayed within the strict guidelines of junior and heavyweight alignment as tag team partners. But they stand a chance to win these belts here. And maybe New Japan doesn't want to merge the tag team titles, and they do intend to move those strong belts off of God. Although I do think it would be a strange decision to have your newly crowned double champions drop the blue belts just or like a week or two after they won the belts at Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm anticipating God to pick up the win here, and I'm kind of thinking that it's a red herring, the whole thing where they're only vying for the one belt.
Yeah, I think God is going to win as well, even though like I wouldn't really want the War Dogs losing either going into the whole 5-on-5 cage against United Empire, but I guess they need to throw somebody in there. So yeah, I expect ELP and Hikuleo to retain here.
The other thing too is like New Japan just doesn't seem to give a fuck about the War Dogs unless their name is David Finlay.
That's true. Then following that, we'll have the NJPW Strong Women's title match. Julia will defend against Trish Adora.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, Julia sitting at 7 title defenses. Trish Adora, she does come out of the New Japan Academy LA Dojo. Someone that they probably see some upside in. They've had her headline some of those LA showcase shows recently. And with the rumors of Julia leaving to go to WWE here in the near future, I don't think it's entirely an impossibility that she loses to Trish Adora here. The other possibility, though, if you think about it, I'm pretty sure Stephanie Vaquer is going to win no matter what. And so there's probably 3 possibilities here. 1, you have Trish Adora win, and the strong belt is relegated back to the U.S. like it was originally intended, and we get Trish versus Stephanie down the line. That's the next big match. The other thing is I could kind of see Julia retaining here and then either facing Stephanie and dropping the belt to Stephanie down the line, or what I kind of think is more likely, she drops it to another big name Joshi in like one of her final defenses, and then that person comes over and defends against Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah, all those are good scenarios that could play out. It just really depends on when/if Julia is leaving. All the reports are that she is signed with WWE and will be reporting to NXT soon, and that's why Donna Del Mondo broke up and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess it depends on when she's leaving. If she's leaving pretty soon, then I expect Trish Adora to win the title here. She's kind of one of the top prospects out of the NJPW Academy. Top in indie women's wrestler. She's done a lot of Ring of Honor and AEW Dark stuff. So wouldn't surprise me if they did want to kind of give her a big win. Then yeah, you could set her and Stephanie up. But yeah, if Julia's gonna be around for a little bit longer, then yeah, maybe you do have her win and set up a big match with Stephanie Vaquer, like you mentioned. Maybe she drops it to Mayu, unify those belts, and you do a Mayu versus Stephanie again, or
I think I think either like her losing to Mayu on the way out and unifying the belts, or she loses to just some other more marketable, I don't know. I know there's been a lot of injuries in Stardom, and I don't pretend to be a Stardom expert, but there's quite a few, women over there that they could easily put the belt on and then have them fulfill that role where they come over and, do the US dates, and she could, do the job on the way out to one of them. I'm leaning that way. Like, don't get me wrong. I've heard great things about Trish Adora. I've never seen her wrestle, but she's got a reputation as a good worker and everything like that, but they've never even shown her on a strong show before. So
yeah,
I'm kind of thinking that she beats Trish Adora, and then her next big singles match in Japan, which will probably be fairly soon, because they run a lot of shows over there. She'll drop the title.
Gotcha.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I have no solid prediction here. Yeah, but it should be a good match. Then next up, we'll have a tag match with TMDK's Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Matt Riddle and a mystery partner.
I'm very excited to see the return of Bad Dude Tito.
Yes, me too. Always great seeing Bad Dude Tito.
Next match. This is, we'll get to the news here, but it doesn't look like this is the only match that we're going to see of Matt Riddle. In fact, it's not even just this and the Tanahashi match, but, the news is basically that he's going to be working for a tour, at least when it comes to Matt Riddle. I don't know who his partner could possibly be. And, it could be someone great. It could be someone terrible. It doesn't really mask the reality of the negative connotation and controversy around New Japan using Matt Riddle in general.
Yeah. I have no idea. I mean, it'll probably be some other former WWE guy that got released recently. Or maybe you find like a catch point guy, Timothy Thatcher or somebody, who knows.
I don't even really care to speculate. To me, honestly, this is a match that, bro, I don't want to see Matt Riddle in this company. Like, I just don't. And I know I'm not alone here. Again, if you're one of those fans who likes him, all the more power to you, I guess. But I know that there's a large audience and segment of the fan base that don't want to see him there. I think that you should let your voices be heard. I think you should vote with your dollars. I think you should take action to let the company know, like, hey, I don't fuck with this dude.
Yeah. So then following that, we will have a AEW Continental Crown title match as Eddie Kingston will defend against Gabe Kidd. In the backstage comments, Gabe Kidd said he was only challenging for the strong title, but it seems like this is going to be for all three titles.
Well, communication's not always the strongest thing when it comes to Eddie Kingston and New Japan and Tony Khan. And, this wouldn't be the first time there's been miscommunication when it comes to the plans for these belts. So makes sense to me. But if you've ever seen Eddie Kingston versus Gabe Kidd from New Japan Strong, that match fucking rules.
Yeah.
This match is going to bang hard, and I can't wait to see it. It is funny, though, that, so I made a thread, and I've alluded to it a few times in the show here, detailing the all-time title defense records in New Japan, not just modern time, but all-time. And it's kind of like the highest anyone's ever had was like Inoki, 30 single title defenses in a single reign. And then, once you get to 7, there's a lot of people that have reached 7. They're all tied for number 10. And when I made that thread, Eddie Kingston was at 8 already, which is pretty great. But then since I posted that thread, he's already won another title defense on TV against Trent Beretta. So now he's at 9. And then this past week, he said that before he gets to Battle in the Valley, he wants to have another title defense on TV. So he's going to get to 10. Bro, when you get to 10 in New Japan, you're in such rarefied air. There's only literally a handful of dudes that have ever gotten 10 successful title defenses in a single reign. And he's going to already be at 10. And I don't think he's losing to Gabe Kidd.
No.
So he's going to be at fucking 11. And I'm are we about to see an Orange Cassidy 24 title defense level record reign for Eddie Kingston? And by technicality, just because he happens to have a New Japan title, Tony Khan is going to alter the record books for New Japan. That's going to piss a lot of people off if they ever figure that out. And it's only weirdos like me that are actually tracking it and realizing what the fuck is happening. I don't even think they know.
Yeah. They probably have no idea, but
they don't care.
Yeah, but it's
he's gonna be slotted between Tiger Mask and Fujinami, number 3 all time.
But yeah, it's gonna be an incredible matchup though, especially if they get time. Yeah, their strong TV match a couple years ago was absolutely incredible. Strong style, fight of the year contender. So yeah, this should be great. But yeah, Eddie Kingston's retaining.
Yeah, Tony Khan would never let Gabe Kidd win here. But in my perfect world, the most chaotic version of this is where Gabe Kidd wins all 3 belts, and then he fucking throws down the crown belt and the ROH belt and declares that only the strong belt matters.
Yes. So then semi-main event, no DQ match between the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, and Jon Moxley.
I'm glad we're getting this match. And this is only the second time they've ever had a singles match. And the last time was like at Dragon Gate USA years and years and years ago.
Didn't they wrestle in the G1?
They did. I forgot. Yeah, that match is pretty good too. I forgot about that. That's true. So this is the 3rd time they've wrestled, and I'm not checking cage match, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But I don't know that I need to see it as a no DQ match, because it feels like every time New Japan comes to America, they feel the need to do a plunder match. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against a good plunder match here and there, but like, why do they feel the need to do it every time they come to America,
Well, because they're the fans that will just chant "We want tables" the whole match until they see somebody go through a table until like, oh, we got a book for them. So
that's true. Fucking stupid Americans.
And plus, Jon Moxley will look for any excuse to blade. So
I'm sure the match is gonna really deliver, considering who's involved in it. So I'm not too like against it, but at the same time, I'm like, this came out of nowhere. Like literally, like Shingo just accosted this man in the backstage. Is like, no DQ, you and me. And he was like, fuck yeah, let's run it.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely a great matchup to have here. Kind of wish it was maybe on a bigger New Japan show,
or I wish that they would have let us know that this shit was happening, so we could have
been
booked
there,
a plane and gone and watched it.
Yeah, would have been a great match to see live, but I'm expecting Moxley to get the win here.
Yeah, we're back to AEW guys not losing. So,
and then the big main event of the evening will be the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada, fresh off of his win from Bryan Danielson, taking on Will Ospreay. This is probably going to be the last time they face each other for a while. Probably for a while. This is Will seems to be his last big singles match in New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, until the cage match, this is the last big singles match, and I don't really know how to feel about it. I mean, it's happening in America, and you have to wonder. I mean, it's really one of 2 outcomes: either Will has never gotten a major singles win over Okada. The 2 times he beat him, one was in the G1 years ago when he turned heel and started the United Empire, and that was due to outside interference from Great O'Khan. And then the last time was in this most recent G1, which kind of happened in the middle of the tour, and wasn't quite in the size building or as heralded as you might have expected, especially given the 20-minute time limit constraint that was placed on them. So I am kind of wondering, like, is this a gold watch? Attaboy, let's finally pay off the story. This is important to Ospreay. This is important to Okada, that Ospreay finally climbed the mountain in a major way before he leaves to go off from the company. Or is this, you will never surpass me, and I am great. I am greater than you, and I'm gonna fucking let everybody know it. And yeah, you might leave and you might go off and you might do great things, but you are always little brother, and it's going to be proven here. This is it. This is the solidifying stamp on their feud, that Okada was always better. And that's, he's going to do business on the way out and put over the top guy.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Ospreay win this match. I feel like I feel like for his character and the story of the rivalry, he should win. But because he's leaving, I think he's losing.
Right, but the Tony Khan factor.
True, but he did also got pinned by Dave Finlay in the Dome. So if you're okay with Dave Finlay pinning him, I think you're okay with Okada pinning him.
But it might be like, we'll let him do one major job on the way out, and that's that's the title match in the Tokyo Dome with, but he's not losing anymore before he leaves. It could be something like that.
Could be. I don't know. I see this man eating a Rainmaker and last big moment.
Also, we don't know if Okada's really sticking around anyway, so that's the other part of that.
Okada's sticking around.
Yeah, I think Okada's winning too, but this is one where it's hard to say, and I think it could go either way, honestly. But when me and Sam said we're doing the preview before Wrestle Kingdom, and I was saying like I was a little torn about the different outcomes because it seemed very clear that Okada was going to beat Danielson. It was hard for me to imagine that he was going to turn around and job a week later to Ospreay, no matter what the circumstances were. So just by that same logic, I don't think Ospreay is going to beat Okada right after Okada just beat Danielson. It kind of would nullify the effect of his win over Danielson.
And also, it's a 60-minute allotted time limit, and this is a big card, so I don't see an hour-long draw happening. So I think
now, here's my question to you, and maybe I should have prefaced this. How do we watch this? Is this only on Fight? Is this going to be on Fight and
I believe this is going to be on Thriller TV, which is the new name for Fight TV.
You mean Triller?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not Fight anymore, it's Triller now?
Yes, it's now Triller TV.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Those fucking those grifters.
Yeah, so that's where you watch it. Yeah, it's not gonna. I think it might be Japanese commentary on New Japan World, but for English commentary, you got to go to Triller.
I'm gonna look because I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm on the site right now.
What does it say?
Well, it says watch live on Fight. They haven't updated it, but yeah, it's watch live on Fight or Triller TV.
Could this be a scenario where we can only watch it on Fight?
Maybe it doesn't say. I'm not seeing anything about New Japan World, but usually they will put up.
I'm gonna look at the schedule and see.
Let's see,
so schedule for January. Oh my God, there's
Scott Steiner in your background.
Battle in the Valley is only available to users in Japan on New Japan World.
Gotcha.
So we can only watch this via Triller. So we need to shoot off an email and see if someone will fucking send us a code, because this is getting kind of ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, we might be blacklisted apparently.
Oh man.
But yeah, we'll figure it out. But we'll make some calls.
Yeah.
But that it does seem like it'll probably be video on demand afterwards. It's not extremely clear on New Japan World, but as of right now, it just says it's only available to users in Japan. And normally they play it on VOD like later, but they haven't specified when that's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, they have a question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. He says, Battle in the Valley looks like a pretty good card to top to bottom relative to recent U.S. shows. Since they have announced a significantly bigger venue for the Chicago show later this year, my assumption is they are playing something like the bigger pre-pandemic shows. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be on that show. I would love to find out if it's worthy of our time, because I like Chicago. I wouldn't mind making my way out to the Windy City, but yeah. It kind of depends on what they're planning to do, because if they come with the bullshit, I'm not going.
Yeah, I feel for that building, 10,000 plus. If they want to do a big house, yeah, they got to do a big card. I mean, there's some pretty big matches on this one. So, yeah, I'm wondering what the, ace up their sleeve they have planned for that Chicago show.
If they do Okada Naito, I'll go.
Yeah, you could do that first. That'd be first time in the U.S., right? Okada Naito.
Yeah, but if you notice, they don't ever really put Naito in a prominent spot in the U.S. Hardly ever. So but it is interesting. It's in when is that show? June?
That is April 12th.
Okay, So that's like kind of firmly in between WrestleMania, that's taking place in March. And then in May, you've got the AEW pay-per-view. So I guess that's as good a spot as you can hope for, but it is kind of nestled between two bigger kind of flying crowd sort of events taking place in the same part of the calendar year. But again, they are in the Chicago market. They're probably counting on that being a strong selling point. But it's like we always like to joke, they got a card, people ask us, we're going somewhere.
You got a card. Yeah. I mean that they could do Moxley Okada for the first time.
That's a big one. Yeah.
But I kind of feel like that's a Forbidden Door match that too. So I don't know.
Omega Okada.
Oh my. Oh man, I would definitely be there.
I mean, as of right now, I'm like tentatively thinking. I don't know. I got some points stored up. I could probably get a flight for not too much.
Yeah.
We got some friends in Chicago.
Yeah, we do. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up the Battle in the Valley preview. Want to take us through the news?
Oh, I guess I'll shut off.
Well, I can do. I've got you're watching the game, so I'll let you keep on that. So
got 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's 13-20, and it's close.
All right. So moving into the news, New Japan announced its big event schedule from now until September. So we have, like we just mentioned, Battle in the Valley, January 13th in the San Jose Civic Center. January 20th at the Dolphins Arena in Aichi will be the New Beginning in Nagoya. February 11th at Edion Arena in Osaka will have New Beginning in Osaka. February 23rd and 24th at the Hokai Kita Yell in Hokkaido, New Beginning in Sapporo. March 6th, we will have the 52nd anniversary show. March 20th in Nagata, we'll have the New Japan Cup Finals. April 6th at Ryogoku Sumo Hall. The event has not been named, but that's usually Sakura Genesis. April 12th, we'll have the Windy City Riot. April 14th in Taipei, there will be an event there yet to be named. May 3rd and 4th at the Fukuoka International Center, which is normally Wrestling Dantaku. June 9th at Osaka Joe Hall, which is normally Dominion, but they have not officially labeled it as Dominion yet. June 15th and 16th in Hokkaido. And August 17th and 18th in Ryogoku Sumo Hall for G1 Climax 34. And then in September, there's going to be a Hokkaido tour.
We just scored again. Yo, we're going to be national champions. This is fucking crazy.
Moving on to the next story here. Dave Meltzer reports that Matt Riddle will be wrestling on New Japan's February tour in Japan, which consists of the New Beginning events. We had a question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. Thoughts on the news that Matt Riddle is coming in and may already be booked for a Japanese tour in February? If the company is tightening the belt and not giving favorable terms to existing foreign talent, does offering Riddle a deal seem like a good use of money?
No. No, fuck him. It's funny though. I had a friend reach out to me earlier today, and he was like, over under on the amount of time it takes for him to, basically get arrested or locked out of the country for marijuana. I was like, Matt Riddle, marijuana is the least of the worries that this company's got to worry about.
Yeah, I did see him do it.
We're past those days.
He did an interview saying like, "Oh yeah, the 420 bro won't be in Japan."
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Which bro is showing up to Japan?
Yeah. I'm sure he wasn't cheap to sign, and there's a lot of foreigners whose contracts are being up. It was reported that Gabe Kidd's contract is up at the end of the month. We talked about Clark Connors last week. There's a lot of foreign guys that they have access to that should be getting that money. Tom Lawler. Hey, you want a shoot fighter? You got Tom Lawler right there.
Yeah, Tom Lawler. Here's the thing though, Jeremy, and I'm just going to say this. We don't have any inside information. We don't know what these guys are getting paid. He might have come cheap. he's in a tight spot when it comes to like he can't go to AEW, he can't go to WWE. We just saw him wrestling in MLW. He might come with a cheap price tag.
True.
Like this might be a bargain basement value sort of deal. Honestly,
That's
You
true.
know?
Yeah. Then the last piece of news here, Oscar Lube's first stop on his excursion is going to be at the WXW 16 Carat tournament.
that's racist. They sent him home.
Yep.
They sent him back to his home promotion for his excursion. That's not an excursion. He's been there before. That's not any different.
What's a new and improved Oscar? He's been in the dojo now, you know?
Bro, that's not an excursion. You can't send him back to his home promotion for his excursion.
It's just one tournament. I'm sure he'll go somewhere else.
I hope so. Yeah, for you, Oscar, we got you lined up. You're going home. But I've been there before. I was supposed to learn stuff, you know, somewhere where I don't speak the language, new experience. No, we're sending you to your parents' house. Got great accommodations lined up for you. Your family's home. And you're going back to the promotion you used to work for. We'll see you back when you're ready.
So let's move on to questions here. I got a question that came in from Reddit from somebody who keeps missing the thread, so I want to give him the first question here. It comes from Secret Monkey Assassin. It says, coming off the back of the All-Star Junior Festival last year, and with the formation of United Japan Pro Wrestling recently, what do you think are the chances that we have a full-strength Super J Cup sometime in the next 12 to 18 months?
I would love to see it, but you know, there's a lot of politics involved, a lot of money. So, and we don't even know what this. I mean, they've got a Japanese alliance, they've got an Asia alliance. Who knows if any of that shit's gonna actually happen or play out? You know, it's hard to tell right now. I'm kind of in wait and see mode at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, they kind of have the connections to do it, but we'll see if that's even a priority for them.
You know, I didn't mention this last week, but I thought it was weird. They brought, you know, Fujita Junior Hayato out in the Battle Royal. That was cool. I thought he was going to do something kind of cool and interesting the next night at New Year's Dash, and like he didn't show up.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
Next question here from Rambone Slam Pig. He says, I started out excited about Sonata's title reign, but was sour on it by the end. The main event and post-match angle made me more hopeful for a better 2024 for him. The emoting as he left the dome seems like a missing piece coming into place. What do you guys think?
I agree. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to advocate or ever go back to bat for this guy to win the world title again. Doesn't matter how much you already. It'd be like, you know, it'd be like a partner that you broke up with, promising that they're going to change their ways. Like, dog, you already had. You had the title. We gave you a long ass chance.
You
like,
had
no.
half a year.
Yeah, a year, more than that, 3/4 of a year. But you know, would I like to see advancement in the character and in the work, and you know, whatever that story arc is going to be? I am hopeful for that, because that did seem like that they were injecting some life. I'm wondering, why the fuck couldn't you do that when he was, you know, leading the company for the past year? Like, I don't know.
It's almost like too little, too late. It's like, all right, cool, you're actually emoting now, but who cares? You're not the world champion.
Yeah.
Next question from MJS PR. He says, do some NJPW contract speculation. Clark Connors, Alex Coughlin, Tamatonga, and Tangaloa, ELP, Gabe Kidd, Kevin Knight. Where do you think they end up?
Names.
Where do you think they end up, and where is the best landing spot for each of them?
Oh my God. Okay. What were the names again?
Connors, Coughlin, Tamatonga, Tangaloa, ELP, Gabe, Kevin Knight.
Okay, so keep it simple. The War Dogs, God, and Kevin Knight.
Yes. And yeah.
I don't know. Well, I guess, okay. So I'm not necessarily optimistic about any of those guys' chances in either of the two big companies.
I think majority of this list should resign with New Japan, and then Tama Tonga, I think he's going to be probably,
a WWE guy.
Yeah.
That's what I think too. I think most of them should resign. There was a time where I would have definitely advocated for many of them to try depending on the period, but go to WWE, go to NXT, get that in, gain that experience. Like that was a destination spot at a time. And then later AEW kind of seemed that way, but and this isn't to bash either of those two companies, but like neither of them right now seem to really, they kind of just seem logjam with a plethora of talent. The whole deal with them, basically being in an arms race to sign everybody under the sun, put them at a stalemate. And they've got too many guys on their rosters, both of them, to the point where they don't know what to do. They don't have enough TV time or interest from the fans to properly move these people through the pipeline and get them, utilized to their greatest potential. And Tony Khan hasn't shown, the times when New Japan and AEW have worked together, hasn't shown the greatest interest in a lot of that talent, hasn't really showcased GOD or ELP too much, aside from, an opening showcase match, and didn't really have much for most of the, the War Dogs guys, aside from Coughlin getting the one shining moment at the first Forbidden Door. So I'm not optimistic about any of their possibilities outside of the brand right now.
Yeah, and that Connor spot was only because Ishii was injured.
Yeah, he wasn't even gonna be in the match to begin with.
Yeah, so yeah, if I'm those guys, and if I'm New Japan, I'm re-signing most of that list, and then yeah, you can send Tama and Tangaloa to the WWE. Moving on, next question here from Cozy. Dr. Larry has a couple questions. First, he says the Three Musketeers seem to be expanding in numbers. Uemura becoming the modern day Hase. Do you love the new direction of the boys like Vegeta and Oiwa graduating early?
It is interesting. It's something that we had talked about before all these guys came back from Excursion, was like, if you're trying to advance the pipeline at a quicker rate, you need to make more room for these guys to be utilized and brought into the fold. And we are very much so. We're in the middle of a transitionary period, but it's still a situation where it's like they're using these guys, but there's growing pains, and it's tough to see certain people ousted from the company, and they're having to realign and appropriate everything when it comes to money and standings and booking slots and everything like that. I don't know if I would call Uemura the modern day Hase just yet, because Hase was kind of like the odd man out, and I don't know if Uemura is going to wind up being, the Jun Akiyama or the Hase of his respective generation. I could potentially see him if everything falls the right way. He could be. I think he's got ace potential. It might not happen, but yeah, I am interested to see what going forward New Japan's booking committee decides to do to get all of these guys in line, because we're already sending more guys on Excursion, and they've already got a full house in the dojo. So.
Right. I mean, I'm all for, speeding up the process, getting these guys on Excursion and getting them back quicker. But it's now, once they're back, how are we going to use them? Because, so far, the Musketeers and Vegeta and Oiwa, all these guys, it's been good stuff so far, but we need to continue to push them and get them elevated. We've been saying it over and over again. Like you mentioned.
Well, when Bushi Road first and the office first made the declarations that they wanted to speed up the process, I was one of those dissenting voices where I was like, yeah, in theory, that's a great idea. But at the same time, there is a reason why, New Japan has had so much success over the years with this dojo system, and it does take time. It's not as easy as just pumping them out, at a faster rate.
Yeah.
But it's a fine line, because at the same time, the wrestling landscape with AEW and WWE and the globalism of wrestling has kind of changed things all the same.
Right. You gotta get them heated up before they get signed off.
Right.
Let's see. Dr. Larry also says Japan is making sure WWE has no foothold at all in Japan. People freaking out over nothing, and I am thankful Social Suplex is the only one not losing their shit. Japan makes it so hard for American companies. Disney owns none of their land for the theme parks. Disney does not own any studios. If Disney cannot break through to make their own stuff in Japan, why do people think WWE will? Like, I cannot emphasize to all Japanese bosses the all Japan Japanese boss won't sell, or it's less likely to sell, because all Japan represents the Japan after rebuilding post World War II and is the link to JWA and all that, along with the entertainment industry and WWE not being on a large station at all. So all this fear mongering is just a bunch of ignorant Americans acting like Chicken Little when all they have to do is a little bit of research. That's right. My question is a comment that people should stop losing their shit. Japan and Asia in general is a hard market to break into. WWE has more successful in Asia in the 2000s with the big TV deals and big tours, and even having live Raw and SmackDown. They do not have the power to really break into Asia. They've tried China. They tried India. Nothing took because they don't understand the market, and Asia will keep them out. Like, for real, I just want to inform you guys so you don't sound stupid or uninformed.
Wait, so just all right. So real quick, that's a great question, but I just want to point out Michigan just caught an interception and ran it all the way back, and we just scored again. Like, this shit's cooked. We're the fucking national champions. Like, there's 3 minutes and 37 seconds left to go, but it's 13:33. We're the fucking champions, my boy. This has happened.
Congratulations.
Oh my God. There's so many sad faces in the crowd right now. Oh my God. There's people crying, dude. Oh, anyways, back to that question / comment. First, he congratulated us on being one of the few smart voices. And then at the end, he was like, I just want to educate you guys so you don't sound stupid. So which is it? Are we smart or are we stupid?
We're smart, but he wants to make sure we stay smart.
I do understand, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that even though we try to stay informed, we're not the most entrenched voices when it comes to Japanese culture or the business ongoings of Puroresu. Like, I can't claim that status. That's not me. I don't think that's Jeremy. But I do think that there is good reason to fear what WWE is doing, because I agree with everything. And who was it? That was Rainbow and Slam Pitch?
No, that was Dr. Lariat.
Oh, Dr. Lariat.
In the Discord.
Everything that he said is 100% accurate. One of the greatest, two things. One, WWE has tried for years and years and years to get into the Asian market, and the greatest successes they've ever had have been when they were partnered with New Japan and partnered with All Japan back in like and SWS as well, and a little bit War, but on their own, they've never had great success. I mean, the novelty of doing one big annual like Sumo Hall show, periodically through the years, or, a Raw or a SmackDown live, those do okay, but they've never done like monster numbers. And when you look at the Google trends, they're not high ranking. They're not, they are in the like weekly pros, so people are aware of them, but it's not like they have this diehard dedicated fan base in Japan. They've never been able to break into the market from just a cultural standpoint. And then when he mentioned how hard it is for a foreign product or a foreign corporation to get into Japan, he's not lying. It's extremely difficult. For me, the one thing that is called to mind, and this is the second thing, is like when the UFC bought Pride Fighting Championship. I mean, they bought the entirety of the company, not just like the name and the logo and the fighters' contracts, but they retained all of those employees and the entire infrastructure of the company. and they tried like hell, but like they had press conferences and they were like, we're gonna operate as two brands, UFC in the States and then Pride Fighting Championship in Japan, and they could not fucking. And now it did hurt them, the Yakuza, advertising scandal, which is what killed Pride in the first place. That hurt their relations over there and made it difficult for them to obtain any kind of footwork, or foothold. But ultimately, like, they found out very quickly, like, they were not going to be able to form a Japanese company over there. Like, it didn't matter how much money they had. It didn't matter how much like sway they had. Like, it wasn't going to happen. And like, I don't know all the ins and outs of the business, but they basically gave up the entire notion of trying to do it and just laid everybody off because it was a money suck for them. And they were never going to get on TV and they were never going to be able to tour. Like, it's a very insular culture. And what I am afraid of, and we're not freaking out about it on the air, but the one thing I think that WWE is starting to do, which might be the way they creep into the marketplace, is by working with all of these different Japanese companies, so much so that they, over years and over a long period of time, ingratiate themselves into the like landscape of Puroresu and slowly start to permeate the scene that way, because they've tried every other way to do it and it doesn't work. But if you start seeing WWE's working with All Japan, now they're working with Dragon Gate, now they're working with Stardom, now they're working with New Japan, now they're working with all these big, now they're just everywhere and they saturate the market. Eventually they will find some way to fuck up Puroresu. And history kind of shows us that when you look at, and granted, it's not the same WWE that it was under Vince, but if you think that they're doing this to not actually, dominate the market in some way, even if it's a long-term plan, 20 years, 30 years, you're kidding yourself. Like, they're not working with All Japan right now
for fun.
No reason. For fun. Yeah. For goodwill.
Yeah.
To expand, to better the wrestling, landscape.
Yeah, I doubt that Paul and Sean are big, All Japan marks.
Right. I do agree. I think that they might find it an impossibility to actually like gain real foothold. But wrestling's not the same kind of business as like what Disney runs. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a grimy business, and like, they are the world market leader. They do have serious money, and there's a lot of Japanese companies that are really hurting right now and could probably use their help. And it's a vulnerable time for Puroresu, and they might snake their way in and slowly creep into the market via the other promotions that exist.
Yeah. Next question here from JSK 2002. Who are you buying stocks in for the next year, with the criteria not only being how talented you think they are, but also how well you think they'll be booked? An obvious choice, but Chota would be one example for me. Completely sold me in the second half of 2023. And with how much the U.S. belt meant to him, I think it only makes sense for him to go after and win the global championship in the near future.
Zack Sabre Jr. I think that he should, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I think he's the guy that, if they're going to put the world title on another foreign talent, he's the guy.
Yeah, I think Zach's a great guy to put stock in. I feel like he's going to win the world title this year, or at least come very close to it. I don't know. I just feel like with him kind of getting out that TV picture and Ospreay being gone, there's a perfect path for him to get elevated into that spot.
Shingo. Even though the company has shown time and time again that they undervalue him, I think with some of the big name talents leaving and the shifting of the guard, it might create a scenario where they kind of need to rely on him. And this might be a perfect opportunity for Shingo to be another top guy, maybe like a global title reign down the line. Definitely
Yota Tsuji. I know he hasn't been booked in fully booked in the main event scene yet, but he has so much charisma. I feel like he's undeniable, and he's a guy that I think is going to get a nice little run this year.
I agree. And yeah, I guess we could keep going, but those would be my big three. So
yeah. Next, we have a set of questions here from Def Triangle 720. He says, if you guys were in President Tana position and he has to look at the Gaijin talent, which of them should be a priority to re-sign?
Zach.
Yeah, Zach. And if Zach's already locked in, I would say probably Gabe Kidd.
Gabe Kidd.
It says, does it seem like there's a hesitation to push any new guys in different positions with it being contract season?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's the case. I think that they're waiting to see who's going to stick around and everything like that before they decide to kick it into high gear. Plus, like we've said, they need to make space for some of these guys. That means certain people are going to have to take pay cuts, be de-pushed, maybe be freelance status. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Then it says, are any of you guys worried Tana may not change anything in New Japan like the booking committee?
Yeah, we don't know whether this is just a figurehead role or a go-between role. He might not really have any major power whatsoever. I mean, there have been other wrestling presidents in New Japan's history. I think he's the 5th at this point, behind Inoki and Seiya Sakaguchi, and God, who else was it? Was it Fujinami and Choshu, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
I could be wrong on that, but I think that's who it was. And yeah, he might not change anything.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily like worried about it, but yeah, we don't really know, but I hope he does change stuff.
You know what I'm more worried of? I'm more worried he changes things for the worse. Because we have no reason to believe or know that Tanahashi is capable of running a wrestling company.
Right. I mean, not all great wrestlers can be great bookers or great office people. I mean, look at NXT.
Bro, a minute 49 left to go, 34-13. We fucking whooped Washington. Suck it. I can't believe, bro, this is crazy. I cannot believe we're the national champions.
It says, hypothetically, if Gato did step down as the head booker, who could take his place?
I wouldn't know.
No, we've been in that question a lot. We don't know.
Brian Danielson.
Tony Khan.
No, not Tony Khan. His booking has sucked recently.
With the Chicago show being a big building, should New Japan try to push a big show that isn't like their typical U.S. shows in small venues?
Yeah, it needs to be something major. They need an IWGP title, and they need big matches.
Yeah,
big money matches.
All titles should be on the line. Big matches. Try to do as much promotion as you can in the States.
That's another thing too. Is that show taking place after or before Sakura Genesis?
After.
Hmm.
So you're not gonna find out a card until like 5 days before the show.
Are you serious?
I'm just saying, just the way that New Japan does stuff.
No, but I mean, is that how many days apart they are? 5 days?
Yeah, so the Sumo Hall show is scheduled for April 6th. Winnie City Riot, it's April 12th.
Oh, fuck.
So that gives you like 5 to 6 days before they announce a card.
Bro, that's gonna mean like, oh, we're the national champions. They're dumping water and shit. This is incredible. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll wait and see how it plays out, but that doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah. And its last question, do you guys think the heavyweight tag titles can feel special again like 2020?
Yes. That's going to fall on the shoulders of GOD or, somebody else, but hopefully them. Hopefully they, rise to the occasion and make it special. Right now, with them facing Kenta and what's his name?
Chase Owens.
And Chase Owens, like, there's no reason to think that that's going to start them off on the right foot. Like, I'm sorry, I like GOD. They're a great team, but like, they're not going to pull a miracle off with Chase Owens and Kenta in 2024.
Right. And I think we've seen with World Tag League, they have the teams to do something interesting and compelling.
Yeah, it's annoying that that's who they picked as their first title challengers after after we just saw World Tag League, and there's a lot of great teams.
Yeah. Next question here from aggressive_vegan. Now that Tanahashi has creative control, will he lose at all this year? Will anything work for him, brother?
What?
So now that Tanahashi has creative control, will he lose at all this year?
Oh,
will anything work for him, brother?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. He already has 2 titles right now. He's the Never Six Man and the World TV Champion, like, simultaneously.
He's just gonna slowly like get all of the undercard titles until at one point he has all of them.
Bro, it's raining. It's raining. This is incredible. We're the fucking champions. We're the best.
Next question from baseball. Are you guys going to talk about it? What is the upside of bringing in Riddle? He's a historical liability, not notable enough to be a domestic difference maker, and there are a good number of international fans that are actively turning off with his presence. I know that's into New Japan. Do you think that they're bringing in more people with him than they're losing? Is it that he's willing to work for peanuts and NJPW straight up don't JF, or God help us, are they testing the waters to see if they can build him up as a foreigner that they know WWE, AEW won't poach?
I think it's all of that. I think that they probably did get a good deal on him. I mean, I'm just speculating, but I just have to imagine what leverage does he have? You know, then again, you never know. New Japan has shown a propensity and a willingness to sign pretty much mostly anybody that was in WWE of any sort of note in the past. So that's always a possibility that, yeah, maybe you were right, Jeremy. Maybe he is getting a hefty payday from his, coming over. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of upside from their standpoint. If they think that they're not looking to expand so much into the West as much anymore, and he's going to be working mostly Japanese dates, and he is, a guy that has a lot of charisma. And I mean, say what you will about him, and there's a lot you could say. He's an incredible fucking worker. Like, he just always has been.
It's great. Yeah.
He's an incredible worker. So, and they know that he, like you said, he's not going to get poached by AEW or WWE. They're not going to touch him with a 10-foot pole. So that gives them more leverage over him when it comes to the negotiating table. So yeah, this might be something where they're like, fuck the US fan base, because it does feel a little bit like a fuck you to us. Mm-hmm. And they're like, the Japanese fans don't care. And that's who ultimately at the end of the day, like, that's who we serve. And he might be, he might make us money.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think it is. And I think they also are sort of hoping that, like, part of this too, you kind of have to blame WWE and the WWE fans, because they never fired him. They never investigated. They never did shit. And the WWE fans were fine with it, and they didn't say shit. And, he only got fired because it was a straw that broke the camel's back, time and time again, failed drug tests, covered up drug tests,
the airport incident.
Yeah. The man's on the airport incident, and stuff, but like, dude's, I could say some things. I'm not going to say them, I could say some things, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like the MLW fans were cool with him. So,
well, I don't know. Did you see what Matt Stryker did?
Yeah. He essentially was like, I don't care what people think about him. Like, he's great.
He made a joke, something about, like, him. I don't know. I can't recall exactly what it was, but something about him, like, being, tried in the court of public opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, had to retract it and, like, apologize because of his tone deafness. Plus, he said he was only in character, but then I saw he deleted the apology and then just left the comments about him just being in character. So I don't know. And then the funny thing about it was, like, Dave commented on it, and I haven't listened to Observer where Dave said this, but I saw the quotes, and Dave was basically like criticizing Matt Stryker, but not for the tone deafness of it, but because the stuff he was saying wasn't getting over Matt Riddle. Like, and it's like, no. Dave, what the fuck? So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not too worried about it, though, to tell you the truth, because I think Matt Riddle is a fucking walking disaster. And, like, you know.
Who gets released first, CM Punk or Matt Riddle?
Riddle.
All right, let's start the countdown clocks.
Yeah.
Next question from Wukong 901. In your opinion, who had the drippiest outfit at the Dome? I was there live, and Sonata's was pure class.
Sonata's was awesome, but I was really impressed with Bryan Danielson's gear.
Yeah, Danielson's gear was great. Suji's gear was great. Okada with the black light gimmick.
Yeah,
that was raw. The War Dogs, I thought their gear was pretty raw.
Which ones?
The juniors, Connors and Drilla.
Quing.
the Aswang.
Yeah.
Let's see. PSA 91. Do you think New Japan should go back to a 2-night Wrestle Kingdom next year, with the 4th and 5th being on a weekend, to give the matches more time and also get more people on the card?
No.
Yeah, I think until they can prove they can draw like they were before, I say stick to 1 night. Raising Falcon says, is it possible for Kaito Kiyomiya to have a worse year in NJPW than he did in 2023?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not book him at all. Twitter user at the quick_manalt. What's Francesco Akira's future going to be like after that semi meltdown in front of the rest of the United Empire?
I didn't see it. Did you see this?
I did not. I know like that was like he got stabbed in the eye by Finley, but I didn't see exactly what happened with him.
Oh man, we got to do our homework. We're not fucking informed.
Last 2 questions here from Barry Walsh. Says, just realized with the talk of pushing younger stars, I noticed that this year, even if the Rambo was there, no Nagata, Suzuki, Hanma, Makabe, Kojima, Tenzan, or Tiger Mask. Do you think it's noteworthy that the dads didn't get featured at all?
Notice that. I didn't bring it up last week, but yeah, I did notice. I do think it's slightly noteworthy, but you know, there's not enough room to get everybody on the card. It's the same thing I've been saying throughout these questions. Like, they're gonna have to make some room to accommodate their roster.
Yeah. Then last thing here, he says, with this title for younger up and coming wrestlers under his belt, how do you see the young upstart Tanahashi doing in New Japan, and where do you see him in 5 years if he continues to build on his fundamentals?
He could be one of the greats.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for questions. Last thing here, recommended match of the week. You did recommend for us to watch Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jordan Breaks from Premier Promotions. I failed to watch this before the recording.
Oh my God, Jeremy, what are you doing, bro?
So tell us about this Zack Sabre Jordan Breaks match.
Here's the thing. I can tell you guys about it, but all right, here's the thing. I will say this, Jeremy, you got to watch this match.
Yeah,
you're gonna fucking love it. Like,
it slipped my mind. I was like, "Oh crap!" As we started recording, I did not watch that.
You're gonna love it. But do you have a match that you want us to watch next week or no?
No, I did
not. No, you don't. All right. All right. So this match. Again, the best place that I know of that you can find this, if you go to our Twitter, we shared, or we, what is it called? We quote tweeted, Kieran, and he has a copy of a private link to this match. So if you guys haven't seen it, go to Kieran's Twitter. I don't know what Kieran's Twitter even actually is. I guess I could look it up. Because if you try to look this up on so if you go to Kieran RH93, you'll find, and then you just scroll down and you look up for Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jordan Briggs, you'll see the YouTube link. But this took place in Premier Promotions, which is one of the smaller, very long time running, but smaller independent companies out of the UK. Like, they typically don't even tape any of their matches. And if you go to like Cage Match, like nothing on Cage Match is like current for their promotion, like at all. So that's kind of interesting. But this match was taped on some dude's like phone, I think, essentially, but it's in really good quality. And they did a small little house. And this is kind of like one of those matches that I love when it comes to excursion match, because it's this small little hidden gem that maybe nobody would have seen, but it exists and we get to see it. And, Zach came to the ring as the, at the time, current reigning NJPW World Television Champion. Jordan Breaks, who has a reputation as being one of the absolute best technical wrestlers in all of the UK, up there with Zack Sabre Jr. He is the current reigning Premier Promotions World Champion. I believe that they have weight classes there, so I don't know, or at least when I looked them up, I saw they had weight classes, but I don't know if they still abide by that system. Like, I don't know what title he actually holds, but I do know he's considered like their primary champion. And this was a non-title British rules rounds match. And if you're not familiar with what that means exactly, like in British wrestling, there's a lot of just weird idiosyncrasies. Like if you go to the outside, they give you a 10 count, but the 10 count is not like in American or Japanese wrestling. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 10 seconds to get back in that ring. Some of the other things, they're usually like 3 to 5 minute rounds. A round ends with a fall. It's 2 out of 3 falls. So if you lose a fall, then the round ends immediately. Otherwise, the full round, happens. The referees don't get on the mat to count. They actually just count it out standing as they see the person's shoulders on the ground. So, they say 1, 2, 3. And this crowd was, very much like a local UK indie crowd. So it's like it's got this tight feeling, but these guys went out there and it started extremely sportsmanly, very, non-aggressive, trying to outdo one another. And it's extremely reminiscent of some of my favorite World of Sport style wrestling, but it very quickly gets heated. These guys start getting frustrated with one another, not being able to outdo the other guy. And they're going at a high level and they're doing extremely innovative stuff. If you liked Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr., this match might be as good and in some ways better than, it's definitely a higher level of grappling than what I saw from the Danielson Sabre match, which is really saying something, because that is an incredible match in its own right. Ultimately, Zack Sabre Jr. did pick up the win at the 8th round, so they got a lot of time here. But and they paid each other respects, and then the company talked about how Zack Sabre Jr. had been one of their long-lasting champions prior to the pandemic, and they had to actually strip him of his title during the pandemic because he was in Japan and couldn't come back to work or defend the belt. But they handed him an honorary title. Basically, they gave him the belt that he had prior, and it actually looked incredible. I was like, I wish American companies had as good looking titles as this small indescript company has had. But you guys have to see this. Like it's not far off from a 5-star match. It's really, I gave it 4.5. I thought it was just phenomenal stuff. So go out of your way and catch this for sure.
Nice. Actually, and I do have a recommended match. I don't know if did you watch the Ishii match from the Noah show?
We'll review it. Yeah.
All right, let's do that. The Noah show, Noah the New Year, from January 2nd, Tomohiro Ishii versus Kitamiya.
That's fine, and I'm also gonna recommend that we review Shuri versus Julia from the Stardom show on 1/4 for the Shuri Mayu versus Mayu for the IWGP Women's title from the Stardom show from 1/4.
All right, sounds good. Well, that's going to wrap things up for the show. Next week, we'll be back to review Battle in the Valley. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation. Visit socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On X, you can follow us at KI Strong Style. Follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. Follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy, and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Summerwitz. Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications of Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. Tunnel Talk with Ali, Ann, and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.